So what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different because I got tired of writing analyses, so I decided I'm going to record one video, basically with explain how to use every mod in the tier, at least like a little bit. Um, I was kind of debating whether or not to start at the very bottom of the VR or the very top of the VR. Uh, so instead, we're going to start in the middle. No, just kidding. I think we'll start probably at the top, to be honest. Um, Yeah, the VR. Let's see. When was the VR last updated? Let's see. August 11th, 2025. Okay, so VR not like super new at this point. Probably will be updated at some point in the next couple months, but um, it's still like obviously like fairly accurate. Although like the exact like rankings have probably shifted like a fair amount. Um, like POW is a little bit down, gold's a little bit up, etc. But um, overall, it should be pretty accurate. So I just want to like go over like basically every mon, like comment sets and everything, like what these sets do in the metagame, like how to use these Pokemon, like what Pokemon they're paired with, what do they struggle into. Um, Kind of just like for each mon, kind of just similar like things you'd go over in like an analysis. I just thought it would be kind of fun to see if I could like go through every single mon and do it that way. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. How many Pokemon are we dealing with? 5, 10. Okay, so there's like 60 plus Pokemon on here. I'm not going to spend like that much time on like some of them individually, but we'll probably be spending a little bit more time, I guess, on the Pokemon that are like rated a little bit higher. Although I guess, well, okay, we'll just have to see how it goes. All right, so to start off, I guess we're going to be talking about POW, Instant Hands, Lando, and Wellspring. So to start off here with POW, um, dude, I can't type. Mouse to work. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, there we go. Okay, so POW is obviously like a really frail offensive attacker. Um, and it's like its primary use has like a few different things, right? So, number one, obviously, is like Sword of Ruin is like an incredible benefit that like no other Pokemon can really do. Um, and so this guy is basically always running Sash. Now, um, in some previous like formats or like metagames during the SV period, um, we kind of saw like a little bit of a wider variety of POW sets. Like we've seen Boots before. Um, we've seen uh, Life Orb before. But basically, like most commonly, you're going to be seeing Sash. Sash is just like the most consistent. Like the Pokemon is so like frail that it just gets like a lot of value out of having the Sash. And so in terms of moves, um, there's kind of like a lot of variation you can do with POW. So most commonly, you're going to see like Icicle Crash or like Ice Spinner. Um, Ice Spinner is like kind of like more specifically used for teams that are like a little bit weak into size spam. Um, but Ice Crash is like a bit more common. It's just stronger. The flinch chance is like really, really powerful. Um, and yeah, that's basically it. Like you usually just like one run of those two moves by default. And then you usually see like a dark move, like Sucker Punch or like Throat Chop. Sucker Punch is like obviously nice for priority, but um, Throat Chop is like really nice for like not having to deal with that at all. Like it's better at dealing with gold with Throat Chop. So Throat Chop is probably like you'll see this like a lot of the time nowadays. It wasn't as common before, but especially like these days, you really have to respect Throat Chop when you're playing against this Pokemon. Sometimes you can see Crunch as well, but Throat Chop's nice because it can turn off Parting Shot, which is not like the biggest deal in the world. Like there's like weird situations where Throat Chop is like actually like really helpful. It's not something you like really going to be seeing like most games, but it does come up. Although you could in theory run French as well. Although the 20% chance to drop defense, while powerful, like it's not like that consistent. So usually like Throat Chop or Sucker Punch. Um, and then the third move slot is usually like kind of up for debate, right? Like it could be double dark move, That's usable. You could be Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword, Sucker Punch, Ice can protect pretty much the most common set for a really long time, but Sacred Sword, while very good, it's not a stab move, so it doesn't like really hit as hard, so nowadays you'll often see sets that drop Sacred Sword entirely, using like something else to kind of deal with the mod that Sacred Sword hits. Um, Offensively. Like, but Sacred Sword is still really nice. Like, it hits King Gambit, not that common anymore. Part of why the move has fallen off. But it also hits Instant, which naturally resists the other two moves, so that's pretty big as well. And you can also see Isuin on this Pokemon. Isuin is really strong because Pal is just so fast. And so Isuin, when paired with like another strong attacker like Lando, or Lando I, or like Nograpon or anything like that, anything that's like a little bit like almost like not the fastest thing in the metagame, but like fast enough to for Isuin would really appreciate Isuin just now. Just how just outspeeds like the whole metagame aside from Moon and like the priority Tailwind mons. So into boards where like your opponent has like less less speed control, Isuin is just like incredibly powerful. And it's like really punishing with passive teams, especially with when paired with Lando, because it's very difficult to switch in nice ground coverage. So yeah, that's kind of the move set, right? And then Isuin, Sucker Punch, Sacred Sword could be in this slot. You could see like Taunt occasionally, but that's like really fringe. Yeah, and then there's some other things you could do with it, but these are the most common set by far. And then usually last you have Protect, but if you really want the compression from like one of these like one of those like weird like jank bird moves, you can always drop Protect, because with POW most people are always going to expect you to have Protect anyways, but so I've seen people drop Protect before, but Protect is just like high value on a mon like this. So I don't recommend it personally. And then for Terra types, it's usually Ghost. You can run Stellar as well. Stellar can be nice in certain situations, but Ghost, like becoming immune to fake out is just so good. That's really like all it is for. Going immune to like priority, like normal moves, extreme speed, fake out. Not really extreme speed anymore, mostly fake out. And then for a moveset like this one, really the question is whether or not you want to be like attack boosting or speed boosting. Usually, like if you're Icewind, it's actually like slightly more optimal to be naive nature. Hilariously, because there actually is like a role that changes like on like bulky Lando. You could KO bulky Lando if you're naive, and you don't if you're not. But if you're not Icewind, then obviously you want to be like Jolly or Adamant. And like the where you put the floor doesn't really matter. Usually Jolly is better. Adamant is like quite strong, but you could get there's weird situations where you could be punished for that. Like you could be punished in a mirror. You could be punished if your opponent has like Roaring Moon and they lose their booster energy. Roaring Moon is like just like slightly faster, or you could be slower than Sneasler as well, which is not like the most common Pokemon in the world, but it definitely exists. And so those are the reasons to not be Adamant. But Adamant is still like those are not like big gigantic reasons or anything. Definitely has to be Adamant, and the extra power boost is like really nice. It changes like a lot of roles on some of the bulkier mons that are like still that can like sometimes like live hits at certain like ranges, like POW at -1. The calcs for Adamant versus like Roaring Moon could be like really different depending on if you're Adamant or Jolly in particular. So POW can kind of pair with like any mon. It usually wants to be paired with like an Ogrepon, because the Ogrepons are just like they fill a niche of like hitting like really strong offensively. Just have like high base fire moves, and they also have Follow Me, which kind of adds like much needed like defensive support for POW teams. And then usually you can see it with Dragonite. Dragonite can either be like most of the time Choice Band Extreme Speed, just really strong. Talk about Dragonite a little bit later. Or you can pair it with like Scale Shot D-Knight, less common, but that is also a set. And so Dragonite's really strong because of Inner Focus and whatever, so really strong priority next to POW. Really powerful. So that's kind of like the priority spam stuff you'll see POW on. Although you can also see it on like just kind of like it's like a solo breaker, kind of on like Torn teams. And that's an archetype fell off like a little bit, but it definitely like this is like a lot bigger like around like a year ago. So like POW, Torn, Iron Hands, just like really strong. And then fill it out with 3 more mons. Hands like is a really nice partner for POW because it doesn't really mind like it's different between weakened by Sword of Ruin, but definitely like, and then like it's hard when paired with Sword of Ruin as well. And then you can also see like Lamora. Lamora is like a perfectly fine partner for POW, especially with like those priority teams. Um, Setting rocks is like really valuable for like changing roles that like POW and its allies hit. It just can become like really difficult to live. With the things on. You also see it with like Tinglu and like Gouger. Although the Tinglu Gouger teams have kind of more so moved to like actually like not having POW anymore. Which is like a bit of a drop. POW just like one of those teams. In this instance, this is a really solid pairing. Like Gouging Fire can howl within POW, and the POW can just do like a little more damage. Although the number of times you'll actually get that interaction, or like maybe not that high, but um, POW is still like great on these teams, powering up like Gouger's attacks as well. And like similar to hand, like Gouger doesn't really mind, so they're like look at this guy's defense stat, you know. Um, and then yeah, Tinglu also likes pulling that rock niche of like changing like rules or whatever. So like one common 6 you'll see is like it's like this, and then I forget what the last one is. Oh yeah, you can see it with like Orphan. This was like a team for a while. Or that even? Oh, it's a box. That's why it's being weird. Okay, so yeah, that's mostly it for POW. So as far as like things POW struggles into, POW can like really be like fall victim to like not having. POW can really like fall victim to like defense boosting mods if it doesn't have Sacred Sword, especially. And Sacred Sword's not even like that big of a fix. So like stuff like Bronzong can be really annoying if it gets like defense set up. If you're only Sucker Punch, then Gold becomes annoying. Although you're still like you threaten them like really solidly, but uh, Gold can be kind of annoying for the composition because like you don't have like Dragonite can't lock E-Speed into you. So depending on the team, Gold can be annoying, especially with like redirection and stuff. Seed Gold especially. And then like opposing speed control is a big deal. POW also hates if rocks go up. Like Lamora is really annoying for POW. Diancie is really annoying for POW. Those are kind of the big ones. So those are kind of the things you have to cover for with your other mons. All right, let's see what's next. All right, Incineroar. So Incin is like a really versatile mod in this format. It really is like probably the second best Pokemon of the tier. Generally, I think that's what most people would agree with that. So yeah, so item-wise, Incin can run like a variety of things. It could be Citrus Berry, it could be Heavy Duty Boots. Heavy Duty Boots is like really nice for like certain matchups, but depending on like your opponent, like the boots can be like a lot of value or like very minimal value. Because obviously, if rocks don't show up, it's like not having an item. But if rocks do show up, it's Pokemon just because it's Pokemon, right? So, really strong. Goggles you could use in some formats, not really as common anymore, but there's that. You can see Shuka Berry sometimes. That's not super common. I guess the most common are probably like Citrus and then Boots and like AV. I feel like I'm missing one of them. So many items you can put on this mod. Helmet's probably not that bad, but there's not that much of a use case for it in this format. But yeah, Goggles is definitely like real as well, but Nougat is a little bit less common in this metagame than some other formats. So a little bit less common. So Citrus Berry is probably like generally like the safest option, right? And then so really on this guy, you're gonna run Fake Out. You're gonna run one of Knockoff or Flare Blitz, at least one of them. Sometimes both. Standard set would probably be like Knockoff, Flare Blitz, Parting Shot. But that's like this set is like good, but this is not really great for Incineroar. Incineroar really becomes strong when you like drop one of these offensive moves for like Taunt or Wisp. That could like make this Pokemon like extremely powerful. Taunt, Wisp, yeah, like just anything in this slot. You can, depending on like what coverage you need, you can drop Knockoff or you can drop Flare Blitz. Generally, like having Knockoff is really valuable, but on certain teams, if you have like another Knockoff one, I like dropping Knockoff and just like keeping Flare Blitz. Flare Blitz is just like a really strong move. But Knockoff generally like you're just always getting value from that move, so like keeping it is never wrong. So yeah, there's that. And then Taunt is just like really valuable disruption. Again, kind of situationally useful, but when it comes up, it like will win you the game type of thing. And then Wisp is like really nice at like nailing down the matchup into like opposing like physical teams. So yeah, that's kind of like the general set with like Citrus or whatever. Kind of just like mixing and matching these moves. You keep Parting Shot and you keep Fake Out and you keep the attacking move and like the supporting move, depending on if you run one of those extra support moves. But a couple other things it has. That's helping hand. You don't really see this like super often, but it does exist. Um, it is something you could lose to eventually if you play the format enough. Um, couple other things. I kind of like Snarl on it. I think Snarl is like really high value in this format. That's not really like super common set, but you can run it. It does fix like a couple weird matchups. Like it makes side spin a lot easier. U-turn you'll run on AV. I'll go over AV like probably after this. Roar is a thing, not like that much of a thing, but it is a thing. Um, Most of the things down here are probably not that useful. Um, so should run double kick into the rear. Oh, and you could always run protect. To be honest, like that'll never be expected, but on the right team it could be strong. But really, like you're just talking about fake out, parting shot, knockoff, flare blitz, wisp, and taunt, um, and like sometimes like roar. But that is kind of like a format dependent thing you don't really see in this format. So this will be like kind of the standard set, but whisper, not like needs to be considered depending on the team. Oh, sick. Okay, so as far as like the EV spread goes, Incineroar is just like such a bulky mob that you can kind of put the EVs anywhere, and it's really value. Um, Kind of like the common set in Gen 8, it kind of still got like ported over. Is this one that lives Steam Eruption, which is like you start off with like kind of like this spread. I think this is what lives, and then you just get like a lot of defense investment left over. But you don't really need. The idea is kind of like you don't really need defense investment as much because you have Intimidate, and sometimes Wisp as well. Although FizzDef can have like a lot of use case depending on like specific calcs, but living Steam Eruption is like just like a really solid benchmark. Like Volcano is not the most common anymore, but it is really nice to like know that you'll be living that hit, and it just makes you like really strong in general. Um, if you can know that you like are just like that bulky. I actually go like a little bit more. I do something like this, and I don't really run that much defense investment on my Ensign usually. And then I like just run like a lot of speed investment. So like speed creep with Ensign is definitely like a real thing. In this format, generally having the faster Ensign is like it'd be like really beneficial. But yeah, you can just do anything with this spread. There's a couple people that really like fast Ensign. I've seen ESM run Jolly Ensign before. That shit is hilarious. Um, but yeah, this Pokemon is just so flexible. And then Terra type, I usually run like Grass or Ghost. Water is like not bad as well, but Ghost is nice. You're not going to be turning this Pokemon really much at all, but it's like it's still like obviously like a good resource. And then Grass is just really nice for like getting the ground resist. You could probably use like Flying as well, but Grass and Ghost are probably the most consistent. Water's like a good neutral type as well, although I haven't really like, to be honest, like, Terras on Infant haven't really been, like, fully explored because this Pokemon just, like, really looks at it. So, that's kind of just the main thing. Alright, so we'll briefly go, that's kind of like this set. Put Ghost on this one, and then I'll put Grass on, like, the AV one. So yeah, then AV Instant, pretty similar, but you're just running U-turn now, and you're using, like, more of, like, the offensive side of Instant, but this set is really nice because it can, like, means you, like, guaranteed live hits um, from like Lando and stuff. You can eat one hit. And then this also like allows you to run like a little bit more Fizz Def. Um, there's not really like a super clear cut EV spread for this, but I think like still like being like quite fast and then uh, having like a lot of defense and then probably like some speed F is like solid, like something like that. I don't know. And then for moveset, yeah, it's just take out Phobos, knock off Future. It's generally the safest. You can also like carry Snarl. I've liked Snarl on Avians in the past before. Um, but yeah, that's kind of it with Instant. So Instant, Instant can be used with anything, but like certain mons like really appreciate it. Like Ogerpon actually like while being like probably the best Pokemon in the tier, the Instant and Wellspring just like together just like so good. But like it actually is like kind of a nice pairing because they complement each other's types. There's your Fire Water Grass core like all by itself. And then Ogerpon's like defense is a little bit weaker than its Smith, but like also appreciates Intimidate. And so yeah, that's one common pairing, but you can use it with anything. Fire Target's just a really nice typing to have on teams. And it's just like defensively really good Fire type. So you can use this with like basically anything. And like anything viable. Well, other things that like appreciated are probably like Roaring Moon. And like it also kind of I feel like Instant Lando is like a solid core as well because Lando kind of like helps punish some of the mons that like are annoying for Ensign. So I think we should start there, right? Like the mons that are like really annoying for Ensign, specifically are like Diancie and like Okidogi are like really good. Glamora is really powerful into it. Hands is solid into it as well. But mostly like the mons that are like the physical mons that are immune to Intimidate or have Defiant. And like all of those mons like happen to just like struggle into Lando. And so that like by itself like is like really strong pairing. But like I said, there's not really any like clear cut like cores you can really like suggest with Instant because Instant just like fits with anything. So that's mostly Instant for you. But yeah, you really just have to be wary of like Defiant or like Guard Dogs from random mons. Competitive's not really a thing. Defiant really isn't either, but you do see it occasionally on King Gambit. But like King Gambit, like less of an issue because you can like at least blitz it. Okidogi is like more of like a mon that is like extremely annoying. And then Instant can also struggle into like random mons that have like covert cloak and stuff. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Like you go for a safe fake out and it's actually not a safe fake out. So that's obviously really annoying. Alright, so that's Instant. So next we're going to talk about Hands. Hands is like like maybe like a little bit weaker than before we realized that Yogi was like quite good, but it's still like a very, very important piece of this metagame. So this mod usually just runs AV, so like Fake Out, Drain Punch, Wild Charge, and then your coverage move, Ice Punch generally, but Heavy Slam is really nice for Diancie and Ninetales. Occasionally I've actually dropped Wild Charge for like the second one of those options, like Heavy Slam, Ice Punch, but that makes you like struggle a lot more into like gold. And so obviously like that like has like a very clear downside, but that the Heavy Slam plus Ice Punch combos makes you like really nice because those moves are part of what makes Hands like so good. Like being able to like kill like Diancie for teams that hate Diancie, or being able to like hit Lando even though you should lose to Lando, but you can actually like 1v1 it. These are just like the things that make Iron Hands like such a great Pokemon. And then let's see what else. Sometimes you can run Volt Switch as well, or Drain Punch can be dropped for CC. But this is generally the most common AV Hands moveset. And then, as far as EV spread goes, usually like on AV, you kind of like run a lot of speed. Like the amount of speed invest you run determines how much SPDF you run. But usually, like at the standard moveset is like hit this, and then you go to like 177, and then you outspeed Corn in your own Tailwind. So. That's really nice. You get over like basically most of the metagame except for like the really fast stuff like POW or whatever. So that makes 177 really strong. But this is a speed tier that gets like speed corrupt a lot, especially in like tournament play. So the few more speed points here is like really like can be a major advantage depending on like how much your opponent has like speed corrupt their instant or their opposing hand and stuff like that. And so that's like kind of part of the metagame. And then the Terra type usually like water or fairy, something like really neutral. Although you also can see grass or bug because they like resist the ground, which is really nice. Bug is like a particularly hilarious one that just like works well on hands, but most commonly I actually like really like fairy. It's just like really solid, like as a neutral type. Like the wild charge back on here. And so yeah, that's like kind of like the main thing with hands. AV hands again, like instant can just like use on like with basically anything, but it's really nice as like a fake out option on like a lot of these like foreign teams, or like any of these other Tailwind teams. It really does appreciate that speed boost from Tailwind, because like even if like it's not like impossible to switch around like AV hands or whatever. Like you can definitely like weaken it with Intimidate and stuff, but like just being able to like be faster than everything and like fire off attacks going off of this naturally like, strong attack set is like really powerful. Just because you're so bulky, it can be like. And once you like have the speed advantage, it just like makes them on like really good. But yeah, you can just kind of like use this with anything. I think one of the strengths about hands is like the naturally like high fizz depth, which makes it like pretty good. Like it's just like covering like some of the weaknesses of those like foreign teams. Like hands can get a lot of value into like POW teams, which can kind of struggle to make progress into it with most of their mons. Though you do have to like be wary of like gouging fire and stuff. So definitely like less true than it was earlier in SV. Hands is still like a very defensive piece for like these offensive teams into that. But yeah, AV hands can be used with like a lot of different stuff. You can use it with like Trick Room. Like having Volt Switch in particular can be like really nice in some of those like Trick Room teams because you just get like a lot of value out of that extra pivot on hands. And so the other thing to consider is like like Swords Dance hands. This is like also this is like the set that got kind of like hit the most hard by like the discovery of Dogi because Dogi like puts the stuff and it's something to intimidate. It doesn't have to go beside him for it, but hands can still run Clear Amulet or can run Psychic Seed. Uh, but the main moveset is kind of like Drain Punch, Fire Punch, like Protect. I'm not personally a fan of Fire Punch, but it is like the most common SD hand moveset because it hits gold, which is really important. Most other moveset options aren't going to do that, and then like running Wild Charge is like kind of bad on like SD because it doesn't really hit. If you do that, you just like are walled by Lando. And so I personally actually really like Ice Punch, or like running free attack and dropping Protect, but running Protect is still safest, and like Fire Punch is just really good in the most meta game. It just like is like really bad into Lando, which kind of sucks. But as long as you're like aware of that, you can still like get impressive mileage out of this move set. And so yeah, now with this, you really just like need to be running max speed F. The speed investment can vary. You can see this on like Chicory teams, or you can like see it with like a little bit of speed. Used with like something else, but usually I think it's generally on the slower side, and then you just like a lot of attack investment. Let's see if there's like a single chain for this. Let's see, Iron Hands Blood. Oh, that's the one I just put in there. Ice Punch is Slash. Okay. This looks like just the standard moveset, but with standard EVs, but just with SD. But I don't think that's like necessarily accurate. But yeah, I think you can see this mod like run like really slow and just be used like in Trick Room as like an impressive like ball breaker. Yeah, like I think running like more attack investment on this is probably like higher value, but just because it's looking like 75 base for our moves, so but also you're doubling your attack, so just like it's like really high value to like attack on this. But you can like run more HP invest or more bulk if you drop some attack. But really the spin up is the most important thing here. Like you need to be compensating for the fact that you're AP. If you're like Psychic Seed or something, it's like less big of a deal, but then you're like vulnerable to intimidate. So this mod, you don't really see it too much anymore, but definitely like something to fear on like teams. It can also be used with like in combination with like the Torn stuff, but usually if you see Torn hands, it's going to be like AV hands just because like it's really good at that purpose on those teams. So, not something you have to worry about as much anymore, but you can also see it on like snow or whatever. It's quite a strong breaker on snow, because it just like deals with like instant really well. Some of those like fire types like really struggle to deal with like SD hands. And behind Veil, like getting the Veil up is just like really good. So you can see it with like screens as well with like Grimmsnarl or a couple like SD hands teams like on Grimmsnarl teams. But before that, before Grimmsnarl kind of like started being the main screens guy with hands, you would see it with like Hail as well. But yeah, that's mostly hands for you. All right. Now to Landorus. So Landorus is like kind of like one of the wild cards of the tier. This Pokemon can do so many different things with its EV spread. So we're actually going to pull up a separate resource that Rat Packer made a little bit ago. Let's see. And so we'll reference some of his EV spreads here. This was like an incredible resource that Rat Packer made, with like just like a lot of different Lando spreads. But the general thing with this guy, you can see Sash on it. Sash is like not that strong, but it is like an option you have to respect. It can make you like just like get guaranteed value out of your Lando, especially the things that you normally wouldn't. You could with Sash you can run like rocks as well. So like Sash rocks, and then like Earth Power, Sludge Bomb, Protect. I think this set like gives up like a lot of like what makes Lando really good, so I'm not really a big fan of it. But it is something that you have to respect at times, and you do see it occasionally. The other set that is not like the main one is Toy Scarf. This set is like quite good though. Like this is just like really good. You just like run like Terra Ghost, and then this is just really dangerous. The ability to like outspeed most of the like basically all of the metagame except for like Roaring Moon, and then having like that U-turn flexibility is like really great on this set as well. And usually I think on this you can run Modest, but that does give up the fact that you're going to be slower than Gouging Fire. So running something like this speed tier is really nice as well. You get a little bit of bulk, but you lose out on the little bit of power if you run Modest. But like if you run Modest, then you're not faster than like Gouger. And if you want to be like faster than like all Crown as well, then like obviously you're gonna get a lot of value just being max speed. So it's probably just worth to be max speed if you want to like get over like Gouger. But if you're not, Modest is like very fine for just like getting like that value of just having like more damage on your Scarf mod because you are missing out on Life Orb with this set. So yeah, the main set is Life Orb. Um, we used to like run like no bulk on this guy, but it turns out this Pokemon has the same bulk as Lando T, so running this is actually like not very optimal because you don't really get over much um, with Timid as opposed to Modest. So with Timid, like you're getting over like Kyurem and that's it. There's not really any base 100s. The ones that do exist are generally not going to get that much value out of running Timid anyways. So usually you'll see this mod go down to like Modest, and then you can run like a lot of bulk. And the damage you get from like Life Orb, Sandsphere, Life Orb, or Power Life Orb, Sludge Bomb is so high that you don't even like need that much investment. And sometimes like they don't even run this speed tier is that much either. So this is the spread that I kind of like in general. But there is like a slightly like more optimized one where it's like very, very similar. Where you just like run like 196 HP and like 28 defense. What Packer just like wrote down there, and then you run like a little bit less investment, but now you live like Sword of Ruin, Terra Normal E-Speed, which is definitely like valuable. So this is like kind of like the range of where I like to run it. I think at this point it's really nice because you still outspeed like Lamora and like all gold and everything like that. But sometimes you want to be like really, really, really bulky. And so that's where like kind of like the main set to take from this away from this is, and you run like what is it, 216, 248, yeah. And then you'd like basically drop all of your attack and all of your speed, and then you go up to like 249 or 250, because that gets over some like Tailwind benchmarks. You outspeed like basically everything in Tailwind, including opposing Scarf Landorus. But you drop all like basically all of your special attack investment. You're still Modest, so like you still do like decent damage. But now what happens is you actually live Ivy Cudgel from Ogerpon, and you live Terra Ivy Cudgel from Heartflame. And so that's like really, really big. Those are like incredible defensive calcs that you can hit. But yeah, you can just like, it kind of depends on the team with Lando, like what spread you run. And then same with the Terra type, like Poison is nice for like the ability to like hit a little bit stronger with like Sludge Bomb that can pick up like, lets you get clean kills on like Ogerpon, while also being like a generally okay defensive type. But generally we've seen like more defensive Terras pop up over the last year, like Steel or Water are really nice for that purpose. I prefer Steel. I think it's just like really, really nice. But you have to be like really like careful like into opposing teams with Lando, because you can like quickly realize that you didn't get that much value out of actually like clicking the Terra button, because then you're hit by ground. And then so as far as other move slots go, you could run Sub on this guy. You can run Rocks. I think Sub is like the main one. Some people actually run Sub Sandsphere. I don't think this is like particularly consistent. I think like not having like a single target move is like like it makes you weaker, and then also you have like you're relying on an inaccurate move. But some people do run this, depending on like the EV spread as well. But personally, I think Sub Earth Power is still like a really respectable set. Substitute is like the move that Lando clicks in most other doubles tiers. If you're not running like Psychic or Focus Blast or something, but Sub Lando is just like really good at making progress. Like it's so, it's just like so good at like taking advantage of like passive boards, and then like, but it just like gets so much value on Lando because the typing is so good. That's kind of like my take on Sub Lando. So this guy like compare with like I said with the other guys, I compare it with a lot of different things. You'll often see it paired with like Torn or Lando, or not Torn or Lando, Torn or like Roaring Moon. Because like that Tailwind support is like really big with him on that like Lando, that gets so much like offensive pressure at all times. You can also see it with like Ogerpon. Ogerpon is like a really great partner. Helps you into like the redirection is really nice. Just like more things that pair well with Lando are just things that let you click the Broken Sandsphere button more, or like things that let you click Broken Sub more. So like Fake Out Wands, Wellspring, or Heartflame for like redirection. Moon or like Torn for Tailwind, stuff like that. And if you have, you also run it with like Gold for like doubling up on like really offensive special attackers. And those two actually kind of cover each other's weaknesses pretty well. The typings line up really nicely. And so the things to keep in mind with Lando are like, there are a few Pokemon in this metagame that are actually immune to both like ground and poison damage. Mostly Bronzong. And so Bronzong is like kind of like the ultimate like Lando punish. So that's one reason why you like pairing it with like Ensign or like Gold or like whatever, because those mons are like a little bit better at dealing with opposing opposing Lando. But uh, yeah, that's kind of like the main thing. Orform as well. Orform plus like King Lu can be like really really obnoxious for Lando, because those teams also carry Pow, and Pow is like really good. You also have to be wary of Kira. Remember earlier I said that Kira was like the only thing you give up on outspeeding if you drop to like modest Lando with like max speed. But you're not really making that much progress into Kyurem anyways, and like Kyurem behind Snow and AV is just like so bulky, and so that's like a really big Kyurem punish. But you can get around it by like knocking off Kyurems like AV, with like Roy Moon or something or Ensign or whatever. And so, but Kyurem like Lando still has to like rely on its partners for that, and then that's part of why Gold is such a great partner for Landorus because it helps cover for the Snow matchup. It helps like cover for the Bronzong matchup, although it's not ideal because those teams also like run like Ursaluna Trick Room. But um, yeah, Gold is just a great partner for those reasons. Um, but yeah, just Lando is like a really central Pokemon for understanding how this tier plays. But I wouldn't really say like the sets vary too much beyond like the EV spread, because you're mostly keeping like Earth Power and Sludge Bomb and Protect on all of them. Maybe you can drop Protect, but that just sounds troll, in my opinion. Like, yeah. And then Scarf is like the other set you mainly have to respect, but Sash definitely like still exists. All right. Moving on to Wellspring. We're almost done with Tier 1 here. Let's see. Okay, so Wellspring has like kind of like two main sets, I'd say. Though there's like a couple more things you can also do, but generally the most common set, so it's like Spiky Shield, Follow Me, and then like Grass Move, like Woodhammer, or Woodhammer is like my preferred one. It's like just like the most consistent. But you do take some recoil. Power Whip. This one's solid as well. If you hit Power Whip, um, this move is like obviously like incredible. But this is like unironically the only move on like Pokemon Showdown that I believe is less than 85% accurate. Like genuinely, like having like played DOU for like 3+ years now, like I think my observed like Power Whip accuracy is like genuinely like 50%. Like I just don't believe this move's accuracy. But Horn Leech is also like solid as well. Those are like the three main grass moves. And then you could do a lot of different things with the EV spread. You could be bulky, um, or you can just be like standard like offense like this. Weakness of like something like this is you actually like, oh well, okay, you kind of die to this in general, but especially with like this, you're always gonna die to like opposing Wellspring with POW support if they click like Power Whip into you. Um, so running some bulk on this one can be really valuable, but you kind of don't want to like drop speed, but you can still drop speed. Um, the most like I think the standard moveset for like a long time was like something like this, which just like gives you a lot of bulk, um, which is obviously like really nice when you're like redirection Pokemon, but uh, I think the set's like a little bit outdated. I think its main thing was like actually like a Flutter benchmark, um, which like obviously isn't in the tier anymore. So I kind of like something kind of close to that, like a little bit less HP, but still running max speed is like this. It's like a kind of a good mid-ground DV spread that I kind of use. I don't really like remember what it does anymore, but um, it's just generally nice. Like you just you hit like around the same as like the sample set. You give up a little bit of attack and a little bit of bulk from like the sample set, but you're faster than like Ninetales and stuff, and you'll never have to like worry about being slower than opposing Wellspring. It'll always be a speed tie at worst. So yeah, this is kind of like the standard set. You can also see like tech moves like Superpower or Play Rough on Wellspring, which are all like they do slightly different things. Superpower is more specifically useful for like King Gambit especially is really nice. But it also hits Ensign. It's like a little bit better like neutral click than Play Rough, because you do like a little bit better damage into opposing Wellspring as well. Because that's the main thing you have to keep in mind if you like run a tech move on Wellspring, is that you're going to be like dropping that grass move, which is like your best way of like dealing with like opposing Wellspring itself. Um, but Play Rough is really nice for like hitting like Roaring Moon and stuff. Um, which you definitely like have to respect this a little bit more now. This wasn't really a thing a couple months ago, but more people have like started to pick up on it. So Play Rough is definitely like a thing. And then yeah, Superpower. Do we really see anything else? Oh, you can see like Encore last, and dropping the grass move, or you can see Encore over Spiky Shield or Encore over Follow Me. But Encore or Taunt are like definitely like respectable clicks on Wellspring, even with like the Follow Me set. But yeah, those are kind of like the main move sets. Oh, I really like U-turn. U-turn is actually like my most often run move, I think. Like besides Ivy Cudgel or whatever. Because U-turn is just like a lot of positional momentum, and it also hits like opposing Wellspring. So I think it's like pretty nice. Getting like a little bit of a pivot on it is really cool. But that's not the most like common move set for most people. Um, oh, funny thing you can do actually. This hasn't really seen swordplay yet, but we did actually like run it on a team in STL. It's Zen Headbutt Wellspring to like help your Okidogi matchup be a little bit more playable, which is like just really really funny. Um, Someday someone's gonna get got by this, and it's gonna be like really really frustrating. But yeah, you can definitely run that. Knockoff is maybe clickable as well, but that's all. Again, these are not common options on it. Really, like the standard is just like grass move or like U-turn superpower or play rough blast. And this Pokemon can also run like setup with like Swords Dance. I think there's Swords Dance, Horn Leech is a lot of value. I think play rough is a lot of value. You're not going to see like Swords Dance with like uh you're not really going to see Swords Dance with like the really strong grass move, but you'll see it with like Horn Leech, which is really nice. Ogerpon Wellspring is not like the greatest like Swords Dance clicker in the world, but it's such a great Pokemon in the tier that it gets away with it anyway. Generally with like setup mons, I kind of like tend to think they're really mainly worth in doubles if you have like a strong spread move, a move that like increases your health, or a priority move. And Wellspring only really fits that box with Horn Leech, which isn't the strongest move in the world, but definitely like clickable with Sword Stance. But the thing is, Wellspring, like I said, is like just so good in this metagame that you can run it with like Play Rough, and like Sword Stance Play Rough is like a really fun set that hits like a lot of the tier. Play Rough is really good synergy with Ivy Cudgel because Play Rough like hits the dragon types that Ivy Cudgel doesn't hit. And you can run Superpower as well as like a more neutral click, and it also like hits Moon and like Kyurem. Kyurem's like kind of one of the other big ones that Superpower hits. This Pokemon like really hates Kyurem. Kyurem like having Freeze Dry is so bad for Wellspring. Um, and so being able to hit that with like Play Rough or Superpower is really nice. Although you won't be doing that much damage to it in snow, but it is a way to like deal more damage to it than you have other access to. So that's kind of like the use of those moves. And so yeah, with like SD, like I think usually like having a lot of speed is valuable. You don't need to run as much attack. You could probably drop some attack for HP if you're running that. But other things you could do, you could drop like speed all the way down. I've run like really bulky Wellspring before. Um, I've run Wellspring that like get over like opposing POW at like -1, which is like really nice. You just like run a lot of bulk. And then you can like run adamant. This is like not the most common thing in the world, but it has a use. I think like it's really nice, especially uh on like teams where you actually have like a trick room option. You can run like a bulkier set with like Follow Me or like Encore. This was a set I used it in SCL at some point, or C used in SCL at some point. That I thought was like really nice. It was like Power Whip, uh, Follow Me, probably like Woodhammer, but um it's just really nice because it does a lot of. You're just like really, really bulky, and we actually got like a lot of value in test games out of like the Mon being a little bit slower, um, in like in Trick Room than like a lot of common mods. And so there was like a lot of test games where that was like really good. But this is not like a common thing. But I think it's something you can also do. Like Wellspring is just like Incin or like any of these other like really good Pokemon. Like part of what makes them so good is like the ability to like customize the set to fit the team. And they could like really pair with anything. But Wellspring is like what makes the Ogerpon so incredible as Pokemon, just in general, is they really bridge the gap between like an offensive Mon and like a redirection Mon. Like they do both like sizably well. Like they're not like the greatest offensive Pokemon in the world, and they're not like Follow Me Jirachi or anything, but they are good Pokemon that have Follow Me. And so they just like really valuable at like filling both of those roles at once. And so the Ogerpons are really nice next to like setup Mons like Gold. Gold is like really the big one. Like Follow Me Wellspring plus like Gold is like really respectable. Because Ogerpon deals with like Lando and Incin, and Gold is just like obviously like just like a great setup mod in general that just happens to struggle with those Pokemon. And so that's really strong. But Wellspring, the best Pokemon in the tier, can be paired with literally anything. So I don't really want to like, go on like super hard on like what you can pair with it because the answer is just about anything. But setup mods in generally are really nice. Incin's really nice, like I mentioned earlier. Lando's really nice. It's just like a kind of like a standard attacker that just like gets more clicks if you're like pairing it next to redirection. So that's really nice. Um, let's see how this one. I think Curub is kind of like the main thing that just like really like it struggles with. But obviously it struggles with like the dragons as well if you're not like play rough. Like Bolt and Moon could be like really annoying. Um, Terra Dragon Mons could be annoying as well. Like Terra Dragon Gold could be annoying. Um, and like obviously like you always have to play the mini game of against opposing Wellspring. And that can be annoying as well. You always have to be mindful of when you click Ivy Cudgel because they switch in their own Wellspring. But yeah, that's kind of like the main thing. Like these are like weaknesses, but they're not like Ogerpon can easily overcome them with like different moveset choices or with like different teammates, and that's like what makes Ogerpon so good. And really, like a lot of these top mons, they just like pair so well with each other, and that's part of like what makes them incredible. So generally, yeah, I think the moveset I'll put down here is like something like this. I probably should have made like a separate set for SD, but whatever. Um, it's like 152, 104 or something. And so yeah, this is like kind of like the standard stuff. Spiky Shield also just like a secretly like great move. Just getting that chip damage on your protection is like really good. All right, moving on. We are now in Tier 2 land, but although Gold is like basically like a Tier 1 Pokemon, this Pokemon is so good. This is like the premier like setup win con in DOU. Usually with like Nasty Plot, Make It Rain, Shadow Ball, and like Protect. With like a variety of defensive items. Sometimes you see Metal Coat for offense as well. But usually it's like Citrus Berry or like leftovers is like kind of like really leftovers is the most common. I don't know why I said citrus berry first. You can also run like life orb, but that like does give up on a lot of longevity. So this is not the most common set in DOU. It's usually like leftovers or like if you're a boosting item, you're like metal coat. Sometimes you see Shuka Berry as well with like Terra Steel. I'm not particularly high on this set, but it like is a thing. Um, Sometimes you just like really need like something that can absorb Lando, because obviously Lando is like a really big problem for this Pokemon. Um, and so as far as EV spread goes, you can run like a lot of different speed stats on this guy, but you do get like a lot of value out of being fast with gold. So something to keep in mind. You're basically uh, never gonna run timid with gold, but you can run like really fast. You can run like up to like max speed modest with like a lot of offense, but um, in general, you could be like 249 or whatever, get over like a lot of the Scarf Mons. 249 is a nice speed tier, get over like Scarf Lando and Tailwind. And so that's really good. And then I usually like to just be like max HP, and then like I'll hit like a jump point or something, and then after I do that, like I'll dump into spit F or whatever. But uh, again, like there's a lot of different things you can do with this guy. The thing is, like the thing is not being or being timid as opposed to modest. It does like get you like a little bit faster, like especially with like stuff like Icy Wind or whatever. Like you can hit like that coveted 271 speed tier that outspeeds like a POW like once it gets hit by Icy Wind, but that's like not the biggest deal in the world. Um, and there's not really that many mods that are like you actually want to hit that are like faster than like modest. So usually you just do modest. Um, Other speed tiers you can be. I wouldn't go lower than 232 for the most part, unless you have like some kind. If you're planning on using it with like some kind of like weird like kind of semi-room build. But 232 is nice because this gets over like Gouger and Tailwind or whatever, but usually you want to be like a little bit faster. They're usually like they can be like any speed tier in here, but you usually see a little bit on the faster side these days. Um, so yeah, that's setup gold. Gets a lot of value out of Terra Dragon. Uh, I used to run like Terra Water on this guy, but that Terra type feels like a lot worse these days than it used to, so don't really advise that one. Um, Flying is clickable as well, but Dragon is really the most consistent. Like it's just a really good type switch for this. The only thing with Terra Dragon is you do become weak to POW again. Like you're weak to Dark moves before Terra and weak to Ice moves after Terra, and that doesn't feel great. So Water's niche is kind of just like being a little bit better into POW in general, but being weaker to like being having like a weakness to Ogerpon Grass move or like a weakness to like Hands Wild Charge, it just doesn't feel that great. So generally, I kind of advise Dragon. I think it's like the safest and most consistent. And the times that I've not run Dragon recently, like it's kind of just been punished. So yeah, something like this. Um, and then leftovers, like well, like obviously, like leftovers is a good item, but it's not like the most broken item in the world or whatever in DOU. But um, it's like on command like gold with like one of the best typings in the game. Like leftovers just get so much value over like the course of the turns that gold sits on the field, and even just like 6% or like 12% from like one or two turns can be like make a really big difference in what this Pokemon is capable of like living. And so that's like a really big deal. And so yeah, that's kind of gold for you. That's setup gold at least. Common partners with this guy, you want to see like instant and stuff. Mods that like we can like opposing attack stats are just like really nice with gold because uh you just it just increases your survivability like a lot. Redirection's really nice. I already mentioned Wellspring Gold is like a really incredible combo. Like Wellspring Gold instant is like you can't really go that much wrong with that. So that's really nice as well. It really appreciates like Tailwind. Um, Moon is a particularly great Tailwinder for it because you get that Tailwind, but you also get like that Breaking Swipe access, which again increases Gold's longevity and like the typings overlap really well. Like Gold's typing really like enables it to be paired with so many great mons like Lando or Moon, Wellspring. It's so easily complemented by other types because Steel Ghost is just it only has a couple of weaknesses. It's like Ground Fire, Dark, and Ghost, and some of those are not really like that big a deal in this format. But yeah, Steel Ghost just an incredible typing. So many resistances, and that's really like where Gold like gets so many opportunities to set up. And Terra is like really nice for it as well. Although the Steel Ghost type makes Terrain out of it like a little bit difficult. I should mention because Steel Ghost is such an incredible typing that any typing you Terra into is going to be like worse than your natural typing, which is like feels like a strange problem to have, but it does come up. So um, it is worth keeping in mind. But if you eliminate your opponent's like checks to like a certain gold Terra, it can obviously like take over a game. Sometimes you also see Terra Fairy with like Dazzling Gleam over Shadow Ball, and that's really nice because it hits the dragons a little bit harder. But generally, I don't think that set is like particularly incredible. But like with Terra Fairy, it does hit like pretty hard. But I think Make It Rain Shadow Ball is generally more consistent because if you dropping one of Make It Rain or Shadow Ball just feels bad because uh then you're like if you drop Make It Rain, then you're like just like pretty weak. Generally, like Make It Rain is such a strong attack, and if you drop Shadow Ball, then all of a sudden you become like exceptionally weak to opposing gold, which doesn't feel great. So, not the biggest fan of Terra Fairy generally, but it definitely is a set that exists. Um, yeah. Okay, so the other thing to keep in mind with gold is like Scarf or Specs. Scarf used to be like a lot more common when like Flutter was in the tier. It's a little bit less common now. Can still be like really, really good on the right team. So the strength of these guys is really like all the coverage moves Gold has, and as well as Trick. Trick is really nice on it. Trick, Make It Rain, Shadow Ball, and then like D-Gleam usually, or like Focus Blast. It's usually I feel like it's D-Gleam, but Power Gem is really nice as well. If you want like an extra coverage, we could always drop Trick for like, and you can run like Power Gem and then Dazzling Gleam, both of them, and like or whatever. You can mix and match the moves, but really this is like the common set with like D-Gleam and D-Gleam is like maybe higher value on specs where you can run like Terra Fairy and it just like hits really hard, but the weakness of Scarf Gold's just like really fast. You get over POW, but in order to do that, you actually have to be timid, so that's like really not that great. Um, and you give up like a lot of bulk, but this Pokemon can still just be like really powerful when it has this like innate speed boost, and then Terra Steel is pretty nice on it just because you get like extra mileage. So you can still use like the other defensive Terras, but Steel's nice for just like a little bit of extra power when you're not really hitting that hard with Scarf. So definitely something to keep in mind. But Specs is really the more common one. Um, this set is really nice. You just hit pretty hard. You can run like Terra Fairy. Um, and usually like Specs, I feel like you have like a little bit more room to like go a little bit bulky because you don't feel like you're pairing with this guy with Tailwind anyways, whereas Scarf is usually going to be used with like some kind of like opposing or like Scarf is less likely to be used with like other speed control. It's more like good like individually as like a on teams where like yeah, okay, yeah, this is just like your fast guy now. Like on one of the teams Z used in SCL, it was like a Ting Lu team, and there was only one special attacker on the team, and there was no speed control, and it was just like Scarf Gold. And I think that's kind of like the kind of time you want to see like Scarf Gold. Like you just like need something fast, you need something that can like just do solid damage on its own. But other than that, I think Scarf Gold doesn't really have that much of a place. But on the right team, it can still be like quite good, like on that one. But Specs is really nice. You don't even need to be like max special attack. You can drop it for some bulk. Um, I feel like here, like being like max speed modest can be like really valuable. Um, but this is like a speed tier that can also be speed crept, although it's not quite as speed crept as some of the other ones we talked about earlier in this video. But definitely like something that could be speed crept. But this is like just a solid speed tier to have. Or you can just drop all your bulk. But I feel like having some bulk goes like a long way on gold. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the main ones here. Okay. But yeah, the main things that gold like kind of struggles with are like uh kind of can struggle to make progress into instant, just like a great typing into it. Chiyu is also a problem, but Chiyu is like not that good anymore, so like it's not that big a deal. Um, and then what else? So, in certain boards, it can be difficult to make progress into Ogre Pawn. But like, and Lando is obviously annoying as well, but a lot of those are like board dependent. Um, like if like Ogre Pawn Terra isn't obvious, like it's a much more a nuisance for gold, but that doesn't happen most games. But it can happen. Lando is just really annoying. It always like threatens to kill you if you don't Terra, so that's pretty bad. But if you have like the speed advantage, you have plot up, then all of a sudden Lando's like a lot less of an issue. So again, very very board dependent in how it interacts with like opposing Lando. Okay, I think that's it for gold. Move on now. All right, Glamora. So Glamora again has like, kind of like two main sets. Let's see. The first of which is like the Sash like rock set. And this set is like pretty good, but uh, it kind of doesn't really do that much damage. But getting rocks up is really nice. You do have hazard control of Mortal Spin. Some of them don't really run this anymore, but Earth Power Sludge Bomb is really solid coverage, and so you can kind of get by. So then it's like Spiky Shield, which is just like a great move, but it's like slightly less value on Glamora because you're just like not doing that much damage anyway. So you kind of like appreciate having Mortal Spin as like a way to like poison both opponents. Just like an incredible move. And then you usually with this you'll just run like uh, just like fast. This is like an important speed tier, but you always get over like Timid Gold, which again, like we just talked about, we don't really talk about Timid Gold that much, but it is like a speed tier um, that is respectable. And there's like a fair amount of things that'll never be faster than you if you're just like max speed, so that's pretty nice. So yeah, this set is like maybe a little bit dated, but oh, okay, it's not really dated. Like you still see it all the time, and it's still quite good, but it's no longer like the early SV period where this was like the only set because basically later on, Gloomora got Meteor Beam, and Meteor Beam is kind of like maybe the more frightening set because uh, you just get like so much value on it. Um, but yeah, Toxic Debris is just an incredible ability. Sending T Spikes passively is just so incredible. T Spikes are really valuable in doubles, but sometimes, so kind of like the weakness is like taking the turn to set it kind of feels bad because like a lot of the mons that set T Spikes manually are not very good. In SV, like it's kind of like Mew or like Sneasler, but in other tiers, like it's just kind of dire to set T-Spikes. You kind of have to use some Pokemon you normally wouldn't want to use. And then obviously Mew can usually click it, but like you don't really want to like click that on Mew because there's like, well, okay, it's not that you don't want to, but like Mew obviously has like such incredible like competition for its move slots. So having like something that sets it up passively when you get hit by any physical attack is like a really, really big deterrent. And so some teams can actually really struggle to kill Gloom without activating T-Spikes. Cow teams in particular are like very susceptible to this. Um, and so yeah, that's like a really big deal. Um, going back, I guess I'll talk really quickly about Gold's ability as well. I think I forgot to do that for the last couple months. Um, but yeah, Gold is Gold is just an incredible move. It makes you untauntable. That's like the main thing it does. It makes you into a Mugus as well. Uh, and that's kind of like the main thing. It's just a really broken ability. In this metagame, it doesn't really come up like the most often because the metagame is pretty adapted to like not having to like deal with gold that way. But yeah, being immune to taunt is like really really nice. Being immune to encore is really nice, except from Mold Breaker Heartflame, uh, which doesn't usually run those moves, but definitely can. Um, and so yeah, that's kind of the last thing I'll say about gold. And so yeah, Glamora like gets so much value out of that. Sending Stealth Rock is really valuable. Um, and a lot of mods get hit by this. But again, this like moveset, like sometimes it just feels like it doesn't get that much value. The main value you're getting out of it is two spikes, which is still quite good. But having Sludge Bomb for Ogre Pawn is really nice. Like it just does a lot of damage. It can kill if it's like no bulk. But Earth Power is nice for hitting gold. You can also run Power Gem, but Earth Power is just like great coverage, so you can't really go wrong by using that. And this one, like, yeah, this one just like pairs really well with like a lot of things that appreciate rock. So we talked about it earlier. It pairs really well with like the POW priority spam teams. Really strong on those. Um, that's kind of like the main strength of this set, but you can really use it with anything that appreciates rock speed up. And then Mortal Spin is also nice for hazards control, although I don't think people are really using Glim for that specific reason as much anymore. That was more common when like the metagame was like a little bit different back in pre-home, and like you had to fear rocks a little bit more. You had to fear opposing Glim a little bit more, specifically this set. Because nowadays Glimora is usually this really offensive power herb set. Let's see, power Meteor Beam, which just hits really hard and takes advantage of Glamora's like bountiful coverage move, Sludge Bomb Earth Power. That's just like really good at hitting things. And this is basically a Nihiligo that has Earth Power, so that's actually like really, really strong as a niche. Uh, Sometimes you can run Power Gem as well, but like again, Earth Power is such a great Earth Power and Sludge Bomb are so great that like it's hard to justify it. And so this Mon pairs really well with like Tailwind, like Roaring Moon or Torn. Saw it a lot with Torn historically, but now that Moon is like risen as a Tailwinder, it's also good with that. And what's really nice about this is you still get that passive benefit of Toxic Debris. Now because you don't have to break your sash, or you don't have like a sash, like you could like self U-turn with like something, and then you'll proc T-spikes on the opponent's side, and so then they can't even deny it, even when like they like play around it. So T-spike's obviously not gonna like guaranteed win you the game, but it's just like so nice to have that chip damage, especially into teams that don't have an opposing poison type. But opposing poisons can be a little bit annoying. Doki is kind of annoying for Glamora. Amogus is kind of annoying. Like you get so much less value out of T-spikes, but still like this mod just this that's an advantage of this set. Like as opposed to the other one where like it's mainly just like hazards utility. Like this one, uh, you just do so much damage with Meteor Beam, and you can't ignore it like at all. So uh, the weakness of this set is like it's like not as fast as some of the other mods. It's not like super bulky as well. You can run bulkier, but not super common. But yeah, you're kind of bad into Lando. You're bad into Lando after you burn Meteor Beam as well. Um, but it's just like that one time power boost is so strong, and then at +1 these moves are hitting really good. You could like again you could mix and match coverage moves. The most common ones are just going to be these two, but you could run Power Gem. You could run Power Gem. You could run D-Gleam. D-Gleam's not like you never see this, but like in theory you could, but it's not that great. Like so these are just like the best ones. It's really just Power Gem that you would add. Um, yeah, that's mostly Glamora for you. Just plays really nice with opposing Tailwind, or not opposing Tailwind, with like your own Tailwind. Um, and pairs really well with like uh, mods that can handle like opposing poisons. Like Lando is a good partner for Glamora because Lando like appreciates the fact like Glamora is good into POW generally, and then Glamora appreciates the fact that like Lando can like handle Dogi and stuff. Which, while not the biggest deal in the world for Glamora, like having something that can absorb your T spikes does make it like something you need to be respecting with your Glamora teams. So yeah, that's mainly Glamora for you. Generally, I think these days I'd rate Power Herb slightly higher, but this set is still like such consistent value that like you can't really ignore it. But this set does struggle a little bit more into those teams that like have like a T spikes absorber. There's not the thing that's nice about this though is there's not really that many things that like can clear hazards in this tier. Like Tusk is not really common at all. Uh, Technically, like Mousehold can clear it. Really, the only one is like opposing Glim, and a lot of opposing Glim are not even going to be this set in the first place. So rocks, if you get them up, are usually going to be permanent, and that's really really nice. But you do get less value into some of the boots mons, but a lot of those mons don't even run boots anymore anyways. So if they do, it's because of Glimora. So that's like the advantage of Glim, and that's how like you kind of play into Glim as well. Like having like a T-Spikes absorber like a poison type's really nice into Glim, and having like boots is really nice into Glim. So yeah, yeah, that's like a really solid mod, solid like tier 2 mod. Some people would probably rate it like tier 3, but I think tier 2 is still like really fair for it. It has like so much flexibility. All right, let's talk about Heartflame. So, okay, so Heartflame is like the slightly less common Ogre Pawn. However, that Terrifier Ivory Cudgel with that +1 attack boost is so strong. Um, and just like this one has like a really interesting typing. And so the ways Heartflame is used can vary a bit, but usually it runs like a little bit more offensive than Wellspring. You'll usually see this guy just being like uh, like this move set, right, with like max speed, and then Woodhammer is just like the grass move. You don't really see Power Whip as much on this guy. It's usually Woodhammer. Um, if it's like the really strong grass move, and then like yeah, you just like threaten such a big Terra. Uh, Similarly to Wellspring, like you have Follow Me access. You can press the fact that you're an offensive mod that also has like Follow Me for utility. Um, and you can still run like the other like support moves like Taunt or Encore on Hearthflame, but they're not really as common. But they're actually really funny on this mod because it has Mold Breaker, so you can actually Encore Gold, which is really, really strong. You can Taunt Gold as well, but like again, you don't really see these moves on Hearthflame as much, but they do appreciate having Mold Breaker for that. Mold Breaker is also nice because you can hit like Heatran, which is again not the most common in this tier, but it does exist. So you can hit Heatran for Flash Fire, but you can't do it once you Terra, and so that kind of sucks. But uh, yeah, so Hearthflame is interesting as a fire type because it has like that strong grass move, so it's actually not as bad at a DNC like as you'd think. It's like really board dependent. Like obviously like DNC is still quite bad for it, especially if like its defense boosts up, but that's kind of why I like Woodhammer, because if you're like Horn Leech, you can struggle a lot into opposing DNC, and so dropping the grass move on this one is a little bit more punishing than dropping the grass move on Wellspring, mostly because of the DNC thing. Like Wellspring could hit DNC with Cudgel anyway, but so that's why I think running like Play Rough and stuff on Hearthflame is like a little bit more difficult. Although you can still see like Superpower and stuff. Superpower is still nice. Although the use for it is not like as it's not as helpful for Hearthflame as it is for Wellspring, but it's still like a good move. You know, like it hits Kyurem pretty hard. It hits can give it quite hard, and it hits Instant. Instant's the big one I was looking for there. It hits Instant quite hard as well. And so that's really nice because normally you're kind of walled by Instant, so it's a big deal. So yeah, this is just kind of like the standard attacker like move set, but usually like Hearthflame can do a couple different things, right? So the other thing it can do is like SD, or Focus Energy. Focus Energy, like you sometimes see it with like Mono Ivy Cudgel, which is like definitely not that bad, but although it's not as good as it was in VGC, like I feel like you don't get as much value out of like actually just like clicking solo Focus Energy. But Swords Dance Ivy Cudgel is just like really strong. You can Terra to even boost your power even more, which is just incredible. And so that's really good. And then you also have like the ability to like click something like Horn Leech, which is really nice. And so like with the Swords Dance and with like the Terra Fire attack boost, like Horn Leech like becomes a little bit more respectable on this one for damage. But really the one you have to fear the most, especially if they have Rilla, is Grassy Glide. So Glide spam with Hearthflame is like really, really threatening. Glide got severely nerfed entering this gen, and whether or not you think Rillaboom would have been too strong in this gen with it, like, okay, obviously it's like great in Gen 8. This Pokemon would have been ridiculous if Glide was 70 BP. Because Hearthflame is the only mon in the tier that really makes Glide seem like a powerful move. Because that Terra Fire boost can be a really big deal. The Swords Dance boost can be like a really big deal. And even if it's just like follow me, you can still like get that attack boost and hit hard with Glide. So it's like really, really threatening to have Glide. But generally, like Swords Dance is best for Glide. If you're like Mono Cudgel or if you're like Horn Leech or like Woodhammer, then Focus Energy can be a little bit strong. But I think if you're fully committed to like if you're running setup on Hearthflame in this tier, it generally I think Swords Dance is a little bit more consistent. Although Focus Energy, like getting that guaranteed crit from Ivy Cudgel is really nice. But obviously, not having the guaranteed crit on your other stab move is like kind of sad. So that's kind of the weakness of wanting Focus Energy as opposed to SD. And so that kind of like transitions really smoothly into like the list of mods that you want to use with Hearthflame. So obviously, really, Rilla's like quite up there if you want to use Glide. Turning on that grassy terrain and having access just like such a strong priority move is really nice. You can also use Hearthflame really effectively with like POW. You have to keep in mind the shared rock weakness, but having that like potential of like Icy Wind plus Ivy Cudgel if you're running Icy Wind on POW is really good. Um, and Hearthflame is like it can struggle like a little bit into Lando depending on board position, but the thing is you're like faster than Lando, so it doesn't really come up unless you have like speed control up. But Hearthflame also can like obviously struggle into Glamora or Diancie, like these rock types that depending on board position can just be like really, really annoying. But yeah, Hearthflame can be used like with anything, but it's like a little bit less common than Wellspring. Like it's one of its biggest downsides, really just the opportunity cost of not having like that water type on your team because Wellspring is like the only water type in the tier. Um, but this is like still like such a respectable Pokemon. Um, but you have to be like a little bit more cautious with it than with Wellspring because like the Grass Fire is an interesting typing, but it's not as good at typing as Grass Water. Grass Water is just like slightly better. And so like the main thing for the Ogre Ponds can be kind of annoying as well. Like Uh, I feel like is a little bit more annoying is like Torn is a little bit more annoying for Harfling. It's often like accompanied by Lando and Genies is like can be like a little annoying depending on like board position. Like if they get Tailwind up, then you can't really Terra because then you're weak to ground. But if you don't Terra, then you're like weak to Torn. And so obviously like Wellspring is like doesn't really have that problem because if it Terra waters, it gets that spin F boost and it just like farms Genies like by itself. But Harflame doesn't really have that. That's not really like obviously that's like just like one specific interaction, but I feel like that's just an example of like how the typing can be a little bit more volatile than with Wellspring. Um, but yeah, this Pokemon can also be used with like Roaring Moon as well. It's pretty the nice thing with the Ogre Ponds is they're Pokemon that are not weak to ice and they're not weak to ground, so they don't really have that problem of being pinned by like Pow and Lando or pinned by Kyurem. And Harflame is particularly nice for like farming snow as well, which is just like really good uh, for teams that could be weaker to it. So then that's another situation where you'd want to run Harflame instead of Wellspring. Um, and yeah, it also like punishes like really hard. Um, Anything that's weak to fire is like really punished by Heartflame. So like another use for it is like if you're like running Deancey or whatever, like running Heartflame is really nice because like you punish gold pretty hard. Whereas if you're more concerned about like Lando with your Deancey team, you're more likely to run like Wellspring or whatever. But yeah, that's generally the Heartflame stuff. Um, you don't really see as much messing around with like the move set or the on this mon. But you can run like really bulky sets on this. I'm not going to really go over it here, but you can like just like in VGC, like you can run like a lot of bulk on this mon. It can just be like really strong because you can just get the attack boost anyway. Um, but usually I think uh, kind of just like the nature of the mon means like having the speed invest is really nice. Like because I think with this Pokemon you really want to be faster than Ninetales, because that's a big part of like denying snow. But if you're less concerned about obviously that you can run like that Impish Ogrepon set, um, I have a set somewhere in here, but uh, it it just you just can just run like a max HP and like a lot of defense investment and like just give up on speed entirely, or hit like that 271 benchmark again that hits like POW at -1. And so yeah, that's kind of Heartflame for you. Okay, almost done with tier 2 here. Raging Bolt. This Pokemon like this is such a frustrating Pokemon at times, right? Like this Pokemon has so much flexibility, but to me, its big weakness is really like the fact that it gets pinned by like Lando and Pow at the same time. Like just like we talked about with Heartflame or Wellspring, like not being weak to either ice or ground is like really nice. Well, for Bolt, being weak to both is like a really bad thing because it makes terrain out of it like so much more annoying. Um, but yeah, there's a couple things you can do with Bolt. Like there's AV with like Snarl and like Thunderclap and like uh Greco Meteor is just like really solid damage. So this is like kind of like the AV moveset and then like Volt Switch or like Thunderbolt or something like that. This is like not bad, obviously. Like he has so much stat, which it almost like feels unfair. I think like the standard like AV set for this is actually like pretty good. Um, this is like basically what you'd consider running. Okay, they've changed it a little bit. Um, but before it was really nice. I think this like lives like POW Ice Spinner or Ice Crash, like one of the two. I think it's probably Ice Spinner. It's a little bit more difficult to live Crash. Although maybe you probably live it most of the time. Um, but yeah, and then like you just run like a little bit of special attack invested. Let's see, what does like the actual analysis say? I know this one was like put up a couple, like not that long ago. Let's see. Two blizzards from Modest Kyurem and almost always withstand adamant Pow's Ice Skull Crash. That's pretty impressive actually, that you can live Crash. But yeah, this Pokemon can feel like a little bit do nothing at times, but Draco Meteor is just like really strong. T-Bolt's a good solid move as well, and then having that Thunderclap priority is nice as well. And then Snarl, like I said with Instant, like Snarl in the right matchup can just be like so powerful. So that's kind of the strength of AV Bolt, is like the Snarl and like the bulk. Like you're not dying to really anything in one hit, but you're also not really like potentially taking over the game like Calm Mind Bolt. So in the past, I've actually like kind of been a hater of this set, but I think at the moment it's actually pretty good because uh, I think Snarl is like increased value in this metagame at the moment. With a lot of the stuff, the developments that have happened, I think Snarl is just like more value. So I think this set is a little bit better than it has been. Okay, the other Bolt set is like CM. This set is like really frustrating because okay, first off, you can like run a variety of items. You can also run Booster Energy like Offensive Bolt. It's a little bit less common in this tier, but it does exist. But usually, if you're Booster, you can also be like CM, and then you just like hit like ridiculous like damage output. But you can also be like Cloak. Being immune to Fake Out is incredible. Leftovers is also like high value as well. we'll just fill out the sample set on this and as well, just because this is like one that was updated recently. And so yeah, you just like run like a lot of defense investment, and then like you're so strong with Cloud Mind, Thunderclap, and then Dragon Pulse. You can really take over games. Like some teams can be have a difficult time dealing with it, but Terra Fairy does get hit by gold, and then before you Terra, you're weak to like uh, Lando or Pow. But this Pokemon can obviously just be so powerful, especially if like healing from something like Sinistra or Comfy. And more lately, I think people have been liking Thunderbolt on Calm Mind Bolt, um, which is just like really nice for just having like guaranteed damage into mons that would normally be annoying. Like something like fairy types like Ninetales or Dancing can be so annoying if you're like mono Thunderclap. But if you're Thunderbolt, it just becomes like a lot less of an issue. And then, yeah, this Pokemon just has like so much bulk. Setting up Calm Mind is really valuable. But uh, like I said earlier, like with Wellspring, the thing is like if you're using a setup mod in doubles, like you really do want it to be like spread priority or like HP recovery, right? And like clicking Mono Thunderclap, a weak priority move that was like really dependent on uh like it's a fairly strong priority move, but like it's still like so dependent on the board position and stuff like that. It can just feel kind of bad. So that's kind of the weakness of Combine Bolt. But again, it just has so much stat that it can take over the game anyway with something like Thunderbolt, Dragon Pulse, or even just Thunderclap, anyways. But yeah, this Pokemon needs to be respected in the builder, but uh, it is a little bit less common. I think people have used it a little bit less in recent months, so it probably will move down to tier 3, I guess, in the next update. But this Pokemon is still like quite threatening. And so common partners, the AV set can play better on like more offensive teams. You can use it with like genies or whatever, or just with like corn stuff. But like Calm Mind Bolt appreciates like kind of like a lot of the support apparatus that you'll see. You can see it on snow. It's actually really nice on snow. Just getting that veil is really nice. Veil plus Sinistra, and this Pokemon can just feel unkillable if you don't have the right tools to deal with it. And oh yeah, another benefit of like Cloak is you're immune to Snarl, which is pretty big. Um, and that can like prevent you from like getting like Snarl spammed when you're trying to calm mind. So yeah, this Pokemon is quite good, but it's not quite as valuable as it is in some of these like VGC formats. In 6v6, there's more ways for like the calm mind sweep to not go through, and like all of a sudden you're like on the back foot as soon as your bolt dies. Um, and so that's kind of like the main weakness of the Mon. And there's also no Urge for it to like prey upon, so this Pokemon's like a little bit weaker in DOU, but the Dragon type is still valuable defensively. A lot of Pokemon in the tier can't really deal that much damage to you. The problem is the ones that do are just like really good in general, so that's kind of the only issue. But yeah, just still like a Pokemon with like so much stat that it gets a lot of value. The main issues for this mod, like I said, are like uh, Pow and Lando are just like the really two big ones. Um, Something else like Tung Lu could be like really annoying. Like playing into like a Ting Lu team with something like this, especially if it's like Whirlwind, could be like really frustrating with Bolt. Um, and then yeah, just like other like uh other partners you can use. Like obviously, like it appreciates like Intimidate from something like Ensign, but you don't want to be like too weak to Ensign to like Lando stacking like two ground weeks. But definitely like not an issue with like just two of them. But it does appreciate that Intimidate. Like other damage mitigation. Like that's why like the snow mode with it is so strong because you're threatening Lando and you're boosting like Bolt's defense and longevity with like Aurora Veil. So that's kind of like the strongest place to use Bolt. Although you can also see it with like Grimmsnarl. It can be like really threatening just with like any kind of screen support in general. So yeah, that's Bolt. I think really this one is kind of like one of the main things you can like pair with Sinistra as well. As kind of like the main thing. Okay, so we'll talk about Tord next. Let's see. Wow, there's so many Pokemon to go through. Um, okay. Okay, so Tornadus uh, has experienced like a little bit of a decline in usage recently. But the main thing with this one, this is like the main set we used for a while. Icy Wind, Protect, Taunt, Tailwind. Blink Wind is such a powerful move, which is really nice. And then you can just be like Terra Ghost to dodge Fake Out. You can also see more defensive sets that have Cloak. So yeah, this is just like a really premier Tailwind attacker. Or not attacker, Tailwind setter. Icy Wind's really nice for like extra speed control. Like Icy Wind, like a year ago, felt like one of the greatest moves in the tier, but now the metagame has slowed down and a lot of things are bulkier, so Icy Wind is less valuable. You'll often see Taunt these days, and so Taunt is like really valuable. as well. You can also be like a weather move depending on your team, like manual rain dance or manual sunny day is really strong. Usually manual rain dance is more common because it also like pairs well if you're on bleak wind and stuff. And so Torn, yeah, I don't have like a whole lot to say here. Torn like moveset is kind of self-explanatory. But you do see like more bulky sets. You don't really see them as much anymore, but they still do exist, and they'll probably become more common in the coming months. Because the metagame has slowed down and being like the fastest thing on the field is like a little bit less, like a little bit less valuable than it used to be. And so yeah, there was like a set a while ago that was like max HP, like max, it'd be like literally like max defense. And this is like definitely like a threatening set. But you'd like drop a lot of speed for it. But really, you just want to click Tailwind, and even with like minimal investment, Bleakwind is just such a high base power move that still deals respectable damage. So yeah, this Pokemon, yeah, pairs really well with like other offensive mons like Wellspring, Heartflame, Hands pairs well. Anything that appreciates Tailwind pairs well with this guy. Uh, Torn Lando was like really strong like a year ago. It's still quite strong, but the metagame has adapted to it better. Weaknesses of this mon are really just like uh, Torn teams can really struggle to deal with snow in the wrong matchup if they're not well prepared. So having gold is like really nice for a lot of Torn teams as well. Just like a mon that's like so good into it. Heartflame again does that as well, but then you're stacking like rock weakness which can make you weaker to Glim, which is also an issue. And then dealing with DNC can also be an issue, but that's why like gold is such a good pairing because gold torn gold torn Lando is just like you have your tailwind and then you have like your two strong special attackers and you fill it out with like three more glue mons or like offensive mons that like an ogre pawn or like a fake out mon and then et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of like what you want to pair with Torn. So yeah, I think that's mostly it with Torn. You can also run like Sharp Beak, less common, but Sash and Cloak are really the most common things. You could probably also run Citrus Berry. I've seen that a few times, but yeah. The Pokemon you can also run like Terra Steel on like some of these bulkier sets, like having that defensive Terra. Like if you're Cloak, there's no need to be Ghost to be immune to fake out. So it's usually like Terra Steel or Terra Water, something that makes you resist Icicle Crash or to like Blizzard or whatever. Okay. All right, moving on to tier 3. Phew. Okay. I'm gonna go get some water. I'm gonna pause the recording real quick. Let's see. Okay, moving on to tier 3 now. First up, we're going to talk about a Mungus, a Pokemon that is maybe not the most common in this tier, but it's like still like you have to respect it like a lot. So this Pokemon is really threatening if the opponent doesn't have like proper counterplay to it. And so this Pokemon, I mostly like Cloak on it. While you can also be Citrus. Citrus was maybe like a little bit more common, but I like Cloak personally. I think it's like really nice, and because it enables you to run both Sludge Bomb and Pollen Puff and drop Protect, which is pretty nice. Um, and then on this Pokemon, I kind of prefer Terra Fairy. It could be Terra Water, it can be Terra Fire, anything in the book, to be honest. It could be Terra Dark to become immune to Prankster Taunt as well. Um, and the thing is, this typing, like, while not the greatest in the world, is also like quite good actually, because in this metagame, like being able to like hit like Ogre Fawns with like strong Sludge Bomb is really nice because even though they have like Follow Me, Redirection to be like annoying for your Spore, um, like being able to hit them with Sludge Bomb is really nice, and then Pollen Puff is like just like really good as well. You can also just like drop Sludge Bomb for Protect. It's not Protect. And like run like Citrus or something. Um, which is like a common set that people will run. But uh, this is just like a good Pokemon. What's nice with Citrus Berry is you can like do this like fun little spread FEV spread that actually like uh has like basically lives like every combination of a double up from like Corn and Lando, which is really nice. But that investment just goes a long way on this Pokemon, especially if you pair it with like Intimidate or something, and then you can be like go down to 93 and then you outspeed all of like Diancie and Ursaluna, all the base 50s and Tailwind, which is really nice. Um, so that's kind of like the most standard moveset on this guy. Uh, Pairs really well with like a lot of like setup win conditions. Um, and it's just like a really nice typing. in bulk, and like the utility from Spore and Rage Powder and Pollen Puff is really nice. Like Pollen Puff is just an incredible move. Giving it to the Amoonguss was just hilarious. Um, and yeah, the Amoonguss just good Pokemon. Uh, Definitely like punishable by the fact there's like a lot of Ogre Pond usage and there's like a lot of gold. The Amoonguss can be quite difficult to pilot into gold, um, especially and because like it's just immune to everything and like you don't do damage for it. So teams with Amoonguss need to be like really cognizant of the fact that gold kind of sits on them. And so like a common Amoonguss core is actually like Instant Amoonguss Diancie, which is like the most common pairings you'll see with it. Pairing it with that, and then usually you'll be like some kind of faster mode, usually with Lando, because that core is like quite weak to gold, because Diancie and Amoonguss are both really weak to it. So you'll usually be like some kind of semi-room team with like Amoonguss, Diancie, Amoonguss, and then like the most common one is like the CSM team that he posted recently. Um, where'd it go? Let's see. Yeah, this is kind of like the standard like Among Us kind of balance into the Among Us DNC team. I'd say like this team has been like kind of refined for like a really long time. Ignore the fact that it's Jolly and Cineroar. But this is just like a really good paste that is public. This is kind of like this is like kind of like exactly like the kind of stuff that is nice with this because Moon, basically everything else other than DNC and Amoonguss like has to be like able to at least like hit gold in some capacity because that's really the biggest weakness of Amoonguss. But Instant Amoonguss Diancie is like such a powerful core into like basically all of the metagame except for gold. Because these Pokemon just cover each other really, really well. Diamond Storm just like incredible damage generally into things. Um, and Instant is just like great pivoting and helps you position Amoonguss with its regenerator and stuff like that. And so Amoonguss helps sustain Diancie with Pollen Puff, and then it can just like make Diancie like unreasonable to deal with. And so that's kind of like the main way you'll see Amoonguss used, although you can also use it with like other setup guys as well. Although Sinistra is usually the mod of choice used for that. But the things Amoonguss does is just like really nice. Having like Spore Pressure is so powerful, even if like there's a lot of things that are naturally immune to it in the metagame. These days, a lot of Pokemon don't actually run Terra Grass, so you don't have to worry about that as much. Goggles and Terra Grass counterplay is like generally like you don't see it that much in this tier, and so that's kind of the strength of Mungus is like a lot of teams are unprepared for it, other than just like their Ogre Pond or whatever. So that's kind of the strength of Mungus. But yeah, it just struggles a lot into Gold, can struggle a lot into like Heartflame in particular. Like like Wellspring is whatever. Like you, that guy can't do anything to you anyways. But uh, yeah, definitely like strong Fire type attackers can be annoying. You can be like really bad into like Psy Spam as well. Like Crowd is pretty annoying as well, but especially because like Indeedee as like a redirector can very easily run goggles and like make that matchup like quite difficult for you. So yeah, that's kind of a Mugus. Okay, okay. Oh, a couple other things. You could probably like run like more defensive on this guy if you really wanted to. But I think Spadef is generally most valuable, especially because you're pairing it with Incineroar a lot of the time. Terra types, yeah, a lot of different things you can use. Yeah, that's mostly it. Okay, Excalibur. So this is like not really a tier 3 Pokemon if we're being honest here, but uh, at some point it was used enough to kind of like maybe put it in that spot. So a couple different things. One of the common movesets is like AV. You can be like HHP, Glaive Rush, Ice Shard, and then Icicle Crash. And this is just like quite strong. Um, with like Terra Fairy. Dax is actually like a really fast Pokemon, funnily enough. And so like there's a lot of different teams I've seen that have just been like fast backs and like you're bulky enough that like not running any defense investment or anything is like still fine because uh you get like so much value out of like being fast. You're faster than like everything bar like Lando and Kyurem or whatever, and everything faster than that. And then being a dragon type's really nice. This Pokemon's not the most common in the world, but usually you could see this with like Snow. There was like a really strong uh Funal team that had Excalibur, Ninetales with like Heatran and like Sneasel or whatever. And that was a really strong team earlier this year. But this Pokemon's not really seen too much anymore. Kyurem is generally just like a better Dragon Ice type that pairs better on Snow, but AV is definitely a set you could run. The other set you can run is uh setup. Let's see, with like Clear Amulet and then Swords Dance and then Glaive Rush and then Ice Shard. Um, just like a strong move set in general. Uh, can be like Terra Electric is funny as well defensively, like resisting gold uh, and stuff. That's kind of a funny one. Fairy is nice though, like giving that dragon immunity. for like Bolt and like Regidrago and stuff like that. And yeah, this just like is really strong. Like Glaive Rush, just a ridiculously powerful move, and then Ice Shard the next turn you can like clear your Glaive Rush, and then it's just really strong priority. It like hits Lando really hard. Like Ice Shard, like killing Lando is just like so nice. Um, and yeah, this Pokemon, uh, you're probably just gonna run. You're not really gonna run much speed invest on this version, although you definitely can get value out of running some speed because obviously, uh, being able to just like click Glaive Rush is just ridiculous. This move is so powerful. Yeah, other sets you can run. This is the most common one, but you can also see like loaded dice with like Swords Dance. This is like my personal favorite set. Icicle Spear and then like Scale Shot. Not the strongest set in the world, but it just feels really fun. It also has DD, although you don't really see DD that much anymore. But uh, just a pretty strong setup mon. You'll see it on Snow once in a while, but it's not really a common Pokemon. Kind of like jobless outside of Snow, and usually like you want Kyurem more. But this Pokemon is not bad. You can use this set outside of Snow a little bit. But getting that Snow boost is so valuable for both of these sets. And yeah, that's mostly it with Dex. This Pokemon, yeah, it's just kind of weak to like kind of getting like out traded, struggles to deal with like hands. If it doesn't have Clear Amulet, if Clear Amulet gets knocked off, it's going to struggle into like Instant and Intimidate cycling it, and it's going to struggle into hands. Uh, and then obviously like other fast stuff that can just like knock it out. It's really bad into Gold. Gold is like the really big one, especially with this set. Like you're just like not doing anything to it. And then even with this set, the only thing you're hitting it with is HHP, which will hit it hard because you just have like a lot of attack stat. But like well positioned Gold could be like such a nightmare for like this Pokemon to deal with. And then obviously like other like snow killing Pokemon like Heartflame are just like a problematic as well. Yeah, that's mostly it with Dex. But yeah, mainly pairs with snow and then some kind of mon to like help compensate for the fact that you're running like two rock weak Pokemon on your snow team. Kind of crazy that this Pokemon's rated higher than in the same tier as Kyurem and Ninetales in this VR. Okay, Chi-Yu, another Pokemon that's kind of fallen off lately, but this Pokemon has a few different things it could do. Specs or Scarf are like common. This Pokemon gets like a lot of value out of like getting running bulk on it, but it's not really enough to fully save the Pokemon. But Overheat and like is such a powerful move. Heat Wave is just a powerful move. It pairs really well with like Tord. It pairs really well with Spectre. It's like another mon that benefits off of Beads of Ruin. If you're running it with Spectre, you're usually running like Spectre and then like Scarf Chi-Yu. So if you run Scarf, then like you give up some power and you don't really have the ability to run as bulky. But this is just like quite good. The typing is not bad, but you are like pretty terrible into Incineroar, so that kind of sucks. But uh, kind of have to compensate for that with like other mons. This is like a half decent mod. Like you run Specs. Specs is like so much damage. Like Specs to you plus Torn. It's like definitely like very real. Like the offensive pressure you output with that is like very, very like respectable and scary. So you can definitely run over teams with that. And then the other set you sometimes see, like there was like a couple times I saw it. I've seen it before is like Plot. I used to run like Grassy Seed Plot. That set's like not that good. As soon as like Lando Eye became like a thing. But you can see like something else, like with it could be like bulky with like Citrus Berry. You could run like so much like HP invest or whatever. And then like clicking plot, especially like paired with like screens like reflects like Grimstar or whatever. You don't really see it with Snow, but you can use it with Grimstar. There are a couple of teams I saw during SCL, I think that were doing that. Um, and it's pretty nice. Like if you run like max HP on this one, like you start to realize the typing was like really good and the defense stat's not that bad. It's really just the HP stat that sucks. And so like Nasty Plot with like Citrus Berry or like Cloak or whatever, or Sash even. If you're Sash, you're not going to be that like that fat, but Sash is definitely something that exists. Yeah, but Citrus Berry, like Nasty Plot, Dark Pulse, and like Protect. This is really good. You just hit like a jump point somewhere, and then like yeah, you do like a lot of damage. But at the same time, this Pokemon like it's not the most incredible in this tier. I personally actually really like a Life Orb plot because then you have like both the bulk and the ability to like just like take over games, but you also have the ability to like do damage like off rip with just like Life Orb Heat Wave paired with like Torn and stuff. But supporting this guy could be pretty difficult just because it's weak to Lando and it's not faster than Lando, and that could like be really bad into like Terra and Wellspring as well. Um, it's not very good at dealing with hands. So This Pokemon not really seen too much in the current metagame, but definitely a thing. Its most common pairing again is just going to be like that Choice Scarf set next to Spectre. Um, why is it over? Why is it Flamethrower over Overheat? And then yeah, so like a common six you'll see is it'll be like Spectre and then like AV Hands and then Lando or like whatever or like Glamora. And so like Chi-Yu kind of defines this like really specific like Port HO archetype of Port teams that are not they're not really GD's teams, but they're more of like this hyper special offense with like Chi-Yu and Spectre. And Spectre is such a powerful beneficiary of Beads of Ruin. Clicking like Choice Specs Terra Blast or Choice Specs Shadow Ball. It can really take over games and be like really difficult to deal with. In fact, well, okay, I'll bring up the replay I was picking up when we talk about Spectre, but uh, yeah, Chi-Yu is just that's mainly its use. Like Beads of Ruin is like a powerful ability, but it's not as good a Pokemon as like Pow. It's like doing things individually on its own, so we see it a little bit less in today's metagame. And so yeah, that's mainly it for Chi-Yu. All right, Diancie. So Diancie is like a very very good Pokemon. Hardstone, Clear Body is really nice. You're just like ignoring Intimidate. And what makes Diancie so unique is it's a Trick Room Center that actually like deals damage in its own Trick Room and can like stack Diamond Storm boost to get like Body Press, and it's just like so strong. Um, the main weakness of this Pokemon is dealing with like Gold and Lando. Both of those Pokemon just are so difficult for you to deal with because you don't really hit them that hard with Diamond Storm even when you get Trick Room up, and then you don't hit them with Body Press either. So it can be so difficult to deal with those Pokemon. But Diancie into anything else in the tier, like Terra, a Diancie that can Terra is just like absolutely so threatening. Like Terra Grass or like Terra Dragon or Terra Water, mostly Terra Dragon to Terra Grass. But we've seen a couple different things. ESM likes Sugar Berry with Terra Electric, which can be so difficult for most of the tier to deal with. Um, like this Pokemon is just so strong. If it gets a single Diamond Storm boost, like it becomes so difficult for like half of the physical spectrum, like half the spectrum to deal with. Like offensive mons, like physical, like attacking mons can't really deal with Diancie. And I think Diancie is like the real reason why Pokemon like POW and like those teams have like they've really like taken kind of a hit. I feel like the tier generally these days kind of leans a little bit more special heavy in regards to offense, and the main offensive attackers are the Ogre Pods, which obviously could hit DNC before it tears pretty well. But even that is conditional on the fact that it doesn't have a Diamond Storm boost up. So DNC definitely like really really potent Trick Room attacker. It's really central to a lot of Trick Room teams. Not all of them run it, of course, but it's so good, and it's also like a Trick Room mod that like beats Incid as well, which is like really valuable. Although Wispenson could give you some trouble. But the main things to worry about with this guy are like Gold. Um, Sinistra's really annoying as well. Uh, Stuff like that you just like can't make progress into as well with this moveset. You can see weakness policy as well on DNC. It's not super common, but you can see it. You can see leftovers, which is really valuable. Safety goggles has been used before, but it's not as great these days because uh, Amogus is like a little bit less common, but it's still respectable, so you can still be safety goggles. But generally, if you're worried about Amogus, you should probably be like Terra Grass or something instead. And then like Shukaberry, like I said, could be used as well, just for like some Lando insurance. But Hearthstone is just like really nice for a lot of Diamond Storm rules. Uh, Helps you deal with like Lando under Trick Room more if you can chip it a little bit. And so that's really nice. And so yeah, that's mainly it for DNC. Let's see. Okay. But yeah, like I talked about earlier, like DNC and Cinnamogus is a really nice core, but you can also pair DNC with like Ursaluna and stuff, and like Sinistra, really valuable as well. So anything that helps you get like Trick Room up is really nice. You just need to be cognizant of the fact that you're going to be struggling to deal with like Gold and Lando with this mod. So things that are good into that are really valuable. Um, and so like often like you'll use an Ogre Pond with this because, like I said earlier, Wellspring's good for dealing with Lando. Harflim's does well if dealing with Gold, and so that's pretty good. And the redirection obviously is nice for setting Trick Room. But really, it's like Gold typing wall in this is just like so tragic, and like that's not what you really need to be like thinking about how to deal with. Okay, Dragonite. So Dragonite has a few different sets. Like we talked about earlier with POW, like the one is like the strongest one is like Terra Normal E Speed. It's like Outrage, and then like Iron Head, and then like it could be like Stomping Tantrum. You could be like Fire Punch. You could be like um, what else could be? It could be like Ice Spinner. I've run that before. Uh, but yeah, so like Stomping Tantrum or like Fire Punch. Fire Punch hits Bronzong, which is kind of nice, I guess, but they're not really hitting it for that much anyways. But mainly with this Pokemon, you're clicking Terra Normal E-Speed, and anything that's you're clicking that's not Terra Normal E-Speed or Outrage, you feel bad about clicking because E-Speed is just so strong with Terra Normal and Choice Band and with like POW support. This Pokemon just could just like be so difficult to take hits from. Um, and you could run like some speed creep on this Pokemon. That can go a long way. Mostly comes out of HP. Like you're just running max attack and clicking E speed, so you don't really need the speed. But sometimes, like when you want to click something else, like having a little bit of speed is really nice. Outrage is just like so strong, but obviously like it's a random target. And so it does best when like you can guarantee like a single target board and you just like really need to KO, or you're just like really behind in the game. And Outrage can like bail you out by hitting the right target and just like picking up a kill you normally wouldn't be able to get. But this Pokemon, its biggest weakness is just being like forced to like choice lock into a move, and then like be stuck doing that because choice locking into E speed is nice. It's like really strong, but like uh, you're gonna struggle to deal with like ghost types like Gold or City if you do that, and then obviously locking into anything else, locking into Outrage, like it's gonna make you confused after a while, and then it doesn't feel good. You can't even switch out during that, and then Ironhead is nice for hitting Diancie, but other than that, like you're not really clicking it that much. You could click it into Ninetales, but the positions where you're actually faster than Ninetales aren't really going to come up that much. Then Fire Punch is mainly for like Bronzong or City or whatever, but which normally would like wall the rest of your set. But yeah, this Pokemon commonly pairs with POW, and then the fact that like that's like the thing is like it just struggles with the defense boosted mods the most. Like Bronzong is an issue, Diancie is an issue. Especially if it like just gets those defense boosts up and then Terra's, like what are you even doing to it ever? So that's kind of the main weakness with Dragonite. The other set you see is like Scale Shot with Dragonite. And this set could run both Inner Focus or multi-scale. You can also run multi-scale on this, but being immune to Intimidating Fake Out is just like so nice that you're not going to do it most of the time. Scale Shot multi-scale I feel like is a little bit better, but it's still like not that great. Inner Focus is just more consistent. And so Scale Shot, Iron Head is usually your move of choice, and then often you'll be Tailwind, which is really nice, or Stopping Tantrum, something like that. Stopping Tantrum or Iron Head. Iron Head's nice for hitting DNC. Stopping Tantrum hits Bolt. Stopping Tantrum is kind of like if you're running one of them, you'll run that, but Iron Head is clickable as well. And you could be like a variety of defensive types. You could be like Steel, which in which case Iron Head is pretty nice for that, but I still want to be walled by Gold, so Stomping Tantrum is good for that. But the thing is, like, Dragonite has a really interesting defensive typing, and Tailwind is nice, but it's not the greatest Tailwind clicker in the world. It just can click it, because once it gets a Scale Shot boost, and it's, like, so fast, like, then it's, like, a good Tailwind clicker, but the positions where that actually comes up are kind of, difficult to reach a lot of the time, so. Problem with Dragonite mainly is, like, the speed tiers are kind of weird. Like, you have to be, like, Jolly to outspeed Pallet +1, which kind of sucks. But then, like, you obviously could be, like, bulkier, and then only go down to like here or something, and then you get over like uh Tornado +1 and Lando at +1, which is not bad, but uh oh yeah, Adamant. But yeah, this is like not bad. This set's okay. It does a lot of damage. Like Scale Shot is a really powerful move. Getting those speed boosts can like create positions where it's annoying, but generally this set is not as common as the Choice Band set. And they kind of do have some more weaknesses. They both kind of struggle into like those defense boosting guys like Bronzong or whatever. So um, worth keeping in mind. And dropping your defense isn't ideal either, but again, Scale Shot does so much damage, especially when paired with like POW. So it is clickable for sure. All right, Gouging Fire. So another bond that can like be used with like POW or whatever. Um, Breaking Type is really nice, like so fast. Howl is really nice for like boosting yourself and your partner. And then Heat Crash is just strong. It doesn't the only thing on this tier doesn't really hit is like hands. So that's like a use case where sometimes you could run like Flare Blitz, but then you're gonna be booster energy, and you're gonna be faster than like basically the entire tier, except for like Roaring Moon, which is gonna be faster than you. Um, and you're just gonna like ensure you get that speed boost, and then do something like this. Sometimes you can drop like the attack a little bit more to run a little bit more more HP, but This mod is so naturally bulky that I don't really feel like it really needs it. But yeah, this Pokemon is just can be like really obnoxious for opposing teams because you just like you're spamming Breaking Swipe, you're spamming Howl, Burning Bulwark. It can be slashed with Protect because Protect like with Burning Bulwark, it's so powerful if like your opponent makes contact, but if they don't and they like click a status move into you, like they'll just go through. So like people can like Burning Shot on you. They're Burning Bulwark, which is kind of annoying, but uh, it's not the worst thing in the world. I still feel like Burning Bulwark's upside is quite high. But yeah, those are the main considerations to make with its move set. Um, and yeah, it's just like another one that's really great at punishing like uh, other like physical attackers on opposing teams. But it could often like struggle with like DNC, like you're fully type walled by that. Um, but it's not bad, not really at all. But it pairs best with like Tinglu. Tinglu Gouger is kind of a common core. It pairs really nicely with Wellspring. Like again, like there's your Fire Water Grass core. You could use it with hands, a lot of different things. But usually like you'll see it with like Tinglu Wellspring. And then a lot of times Tinglu these days is running like Grassy Seeds. You'll see like Rillaboom. And like I think like the strongest current like Gouger team. Let me find it real quick. Let's see. Yeah, this one. This one I think is really good. I talked about it earlier when we were talking about Scarf Gold, but I think this team is really solid. You can also use it with Dogi. That's another Howl recipient. Because you're kind of the thing with Gougers, you're kind of bad into instants, so you want to like run mons with it that like allow you to like punish instant, so you can't just like get intimidate spammed on this Pokemon. Uh, because you're not really doing anything to instant with this guy, and like obviously if your like partner is like susceptible to intimidate too, that like kind of sucks. In the past we kind of saw that with like Clear Amulet Shen Pao, but that phase is like kind of ended a little bit. So now it's mostly like you'll see it with what's it called? You'll see it with like Dogi, which is really nice. Um yeah, so it's really good. Like Ogrepon's just like a great recipient as well. Woodhammer from like Rillaboom is like great off of Howl as well, so that's really nice. And then like Ting just makes Gouger like that much more difficult to deal with. And so yeah, that's the main thing to consider with it. Yeah, like things it struggles with, like you kind of struggle to deal with like the bulkier Orlando stuff, depending on your team. Um, but after a howl, you can like start dealing respectable damage to it, but it can still be annoying if the position's wrong. Like I said, DNC is annoying, um, and stuff like that. But with Gouger, you really just need to be like keeping in mind like what you're pairing with it to deal with those Pokemon. And that's part of why Tinglu is such a great partner. It generally like deals with most of the problems, but you will be a little bit susceptible to opposing Dogi, especially if they're like there's like certain Dogi sets that can totally screw you over. Like you look at this team and it's so well equipped into opposing Gouger because it's cloak and it can't be like breaking swipe can't be cloaked into it. Like if this is like bulk up Dogi is like so difficult for Gouger teams to deal with. Um, which is like a big concern. But yeah, just a really strong mon that pairs well with like Pow and Tiglu and stuff like that. But you also can see like a DD set with like Terra Ground Earthquake with like Torn. That team's also in here somewhere in this team dump. Um, and I feel like this team is like quite good. Uh, there's no team GG. But yeah, it's like this six with like DD Gouger with like EQ and Sunny Day Torn and then Group Bonnet benefits from the sun as well. And yeah, this is just like a really well built team. And so yeah, that's pretty good. What else? Okay, crown. Let's see. I have to create a new box now. Let's see. All right, so Iron Crown is like the main new like size spam guy introduced to this generation. It's really just like the best expanding force clicker in the game. And so you usually run like booster speed or booster special. It depends on your. There's like kind of like two main sets you'll run with it. You'll see Tachyon Cutter, expanding force. Tachyon Cutter is a really nice move. It hits like pow. It hits pow and glim through sash, which is really nice. Um, and then expanding force, obviously, and then booster speed will run Calm Mind, and then like booster special will run Terra Blast. And so we'll just like make two different sets here. And that's kind of like the main difference between the two. That because if you're not the main struggle with like booster speed is that you do struggle a bit into instant. That's kind of like the beta limiting factor. You're also like really bad into like chi. Well, that's not as common. Um, but you could be like defensive Terra Dragon. You could be like offensive Terra with Terra Psychic, which drops some of the weaknesses of the Steel type, which is nice. And so yeah, this is like quite good. You'll usually like go down around to like to here, and then you'll make sure you get the speed boost, and then you'll like dump an HP or something. And this Pokemon can be really threatening. They usually do it with Indeedee every time. Um, Expanding Force is just like so strong. We'll talk about Indeedee next actually because so yeah, this is like the worst part about this VR is Crown is higher than Indeedee when you literally can't use Crown without Indeedee. But yeah, so you're using these two together. You need to be worried about Incin and basically just like dark types in general. So ways to punish that are really nice, like pairing it with like Dogi or whatever. Hands can also be used like on this the most common crown team we've seen recently is the Z team, which I think is like really one of like the textbook crown team in this format. I think this team is like really incredible. You're also struggling Delando, so you know you have like your Wellspring and your Kyurem for that, which is really nice. Um, and so you have your hands here to deal with Incineroar. And so you really like this team just like flows really well together. You have like the Combine Crown, which is really good, and then everything else is just like patching specific matchups for the Crown that are going to be kind of annoying. And so you'll see like the solo Kyurem here, which is kind of a more recent development, but that's really nice for helping deal with like Lando and stuff. Um, and so yeah, this is kind of a textbook crowd team. Different moves you can pair with Indeedee, like you could be Helping Hand for your crown, you could be Heal Pulse for your crown. And then like that redirection built in with that Indeedee is really, really nice. So like follow me, and then just like this mon usually runs like really high defense investment because otherwise it just like kind of sucks. This is the most standard set I usually use, although yeah, it's 176.80. I wonder what this does specifically, but I'm sure it does something. But I usually just run like max defense on it, which is pretty nice. Uh, and so yeah, this mon is kind of just like used with Crown. You don't really see it outside of these. These two are just used together. But it's definitely a formidable archetype. Combine is just like so scary, and E-Force just hits so hard, especially if you get the Combine off. Like it's just ridiculous. So um, like yeah, it's just really really strong. But yeah, you need to be worried about like Tinglu, you need to be worried about Instant, you need to be worried about like any other like random dark types you'll encounter. Like Pow is not really an issue because you're just like flicking Tachyon into it. But a Throat Chop Crown does get a lot of mileage into these two Pokemon, of course. But yeah, so you'll just be Follow Me, Heal Pulse, or Helping Hand, and then having Trick Room is just nice. Like you get that second mode here with like hands on this team. It could be Dogi as well. Dogi's just like great at punishing Instant, even more specifically. But having that like Psy Seed on hands is really nice as well for this archetype. So it's really good. Yeah, you could be Citrus, you could be Rocky Helmet, you could be Goggles. But Citrus is generally going to be like the safest and most consistent item. You're just going to get guaranteed value out of that like every game. And then Psychic usually you could be like Alluring Voice or something to hit like power like the dark types. So you would get guaranteed value into everything, but you're not really doing any damage with that. Granted, you're not doing that much damage with Psychic either, but it's still like a little bit nicer to have like your own like Psychic boosted it's like Surge boosted Psychic. So that's pretty good. And then you could be like Protect, which is high value, or you could just be like Heal Pulse or Helping Hand. Uh, so really, it's just like a combination of like what moves you actually want. Like you see on this team, it has both Helping Hand and Trick Room, but it could be Protect instead of one of them. Trick Room is just like really nice flexibility with these Pokemon. And so then with like Booster Special Crown, you'll just be like Terra Blast, same move set, Tachyon Cutter, and then Expanding Force, and then usually like Terra Water, which is just a really nice Terra type that like hits Incin pretty hard. You could be like Terra Ground as well. I've seen that as well. That hits gold. So Terra Ground is definitely respectable as well on it. But I think Water is just like a little bit more nice defensively. And so yeah, then you could just be like max speed. And this is like maybe like slightly unoptimal, but you could go troop down to like 310 and get over some stuff. But uh, or maybe just outspeed like Kyurem, so like go to like 319. I mean, you're not really getting anything, so you could just be max speed. But uh, yeah, this is just really nice having that Terra Blast coverage, but you do not have like the you're not going to be as sweeping as often because you don't have Calm Mind. And so that does like limit a little bit of what you do, but it's definitely like respectable. This is pretty nice, specifically with like Helping Hand to Crown. I feel like their Helping Hand and DD goes well with like Booster Special Crown. It's fun with both of them, but especially with this one because it doesn't have a boost, so it's pretty nice to have. But you need a little bit more like dedicated like speed control with this because you will struggle with Lando a bit. But at least you can hit it with Terra Blast Water, which is not bad. And so yeah, like expanding force is no joke, especially with like that booster special. So crowd just like very good Pokemon. Okay, that's kind of indeedy for you as well. Um, all right, King Gambit. Let's see. King Gambit has a couple different sets. The most common of which is going to be like AV these days. Well, okay, I guess that's not really the most common, but you'll see this sometimes. I don't really know how to judge it. You don't see this Pokemon too much anymore, but it's definitely respectable. Ironhead is nice. Like the Steel type is pretty good in all honesty. And then like you'll be like Low Kick and Sucker Punch on this guy, and then like Defiant is really nice. You can pair this guy with like Gouger. You don't really see those teams too much anymore, but yeah, like King Gambit Gouger is definitely real. Um, and like you just get so much value out of like having like a defensive Terra. This one is like really bulky, so it can be like quite difficult to deal with. Especially if you have like a team that's as instant as unequipped to deal with Gambit, it could be like really threatening. Um, it can also be like Terra Blast in this guy, but I think Low Kick is usually just a little bit better. So there's that, and then uh, oh yeah. So yeah, that set is just like really bulky. It has such high natural defense, and then its HP is big, and so like you give it the AV, it's just like really bulky. And then like obviously you put a Shinsen. Generally, it's not as common as Okidogi these days. Okidogi is a better instant punish because it actually isn't really typed walled by it. Like obviously you have like Low Kick, but that's like not a perfect solution. It's not as great as like having uh like Drain Punch or whatever on Dogi. So uh definitely like sorry, I realized the music turned off like forever ago. My bad. Uh yeah, the other thing you'll see on it is like Sword Stance. Sword Stance Gambit is definitely like pretty nice, but you are like kind of reliant on Sucker Punch. So similar to like the way like Thunderclap Bolt is not the greatest thing in the world, like it's a bigger deal for King Gambit because you're just kind of reliant on these two moves, and like if you're running like Ironhead Kowtow or Ironhead Sucker, you're just like there's like weird positions where like you'll won't have value, but so usually it's just like double dark with like black glasses. You can sometimes see like leftovers as well, but then like Swords Dance. So this is like a threatening setup sweeper, but it's a little bit particularly vulnerable to redirection from the Ogre Pawns, and that kind of sucks. And then also like you don't really do that much damage to like Lando, especially if they're like Vizdef, and so that development's pretty bad for you as well. Uh, but yeah, this is still like a Pokemon that like exists, but I don't think it's like particularly great. Um, there's a couple teams with it though out there. Uh, it's nice behind like well, it's nice with like redirection or like Ninetale stuff with like snow. So that at least like can punish like the Lando stuff for you, but it does kind of suck because then like your snow mode's kind of walled by incident. Like although you like obviously like punish incident, you don't punish it like super heavily, so it's a little bit sad, and that's why I think Dogi is a little bit better as like an intimidate punish generally. But this Pokemon is still okay. It's not bad. So yeah, I just want like something like this. Speed investments, whatever. You're just vulnerable to redirection from the Ogre Pawns, and then you're vulnerable to Orlando, and those are the big things. And those, like that's not like the biggest issues. It's like you're also kind of bad in the hands. Like those are like your main three weaknesses, and you're like kind of okay into everything else. But those are like just happen to be like some of the best Pokemon in the tier, so that just like kind of sucks, right? So that's why we don't really see too much King Gambit. But yeah, redirection or screens is just like great for it. All right, now we're finally talking about Kyurem and Ninetales. Kyurem is definitely like a tier 2 Pokemon these days, I'd say. Um, we see it often like by itself, like we just saw in that Z team there. It could be like Draco Meteor. Having Freeze Ray is like a really nice tool on this Pokemon. It's part of what makes it so good. Because like it's just one of the best ways. It's like the only way of like hitting Overfond like that hard, you know, before and after Terra. It's just like really good. Obviously, like you won't kill it if it like Terra Waters against this Boost, but it's still like solid damage, right? And then you also have like Ice Ground coverage and like Glaciate for speed control. This is just like a really strong Pokemon. So let's just go back and like grab this Z set. So yeah, it looks like this one is just max speed modest. Let's see. I think that is 289. And then yeah, so Z used this a lot during SCL. This set is just like really dangerous.
Yeah, here's another one with it. Uh, this one's timid. But yeah, this Pokemon, just the Ice Ground coverage compressed into one mod is really nice. So we see like Terra Ground on it, usually on like the solo builds, but it can also be like Terra Fairy or like Terra Steel, but those are maybe a little bit more common on like actual snow teams. But yeah, Solo Kyurem is just it just trades so well, and that's part of what makes it so nice. Um, and yeah, just really solid damage with like Earth Power and like Freeze Dry, and you're so like naturally bulky that you don't even need investment to be annoying. So definitely just like a really scary Pokemon. It's like widely splashable, and it kind of like knocked down Pal a little bit because Kyurem is just like a good competitor as an Ice type that turns out you can put on like a variety of teams as well, just like Pal. So uh, and it's just like bulkier and like it doesn't get as like hard. It's like a little bit easier to use than Pal. So this is a Pokemon I credit to like Pal being more of like a tier 2 Pokemon nowadays. And yeah, Kyurem just like quite good. You use like on a variety of stuff. You see this usually as like a patch for like Lando on a couple of these teams. Like this team looks a little bit weak to Lando, this team looks a little bit weak to Lando, but with Kyurem, like all of a sudden like you have like a mod that's just like so difficult for Lando to break with this AV, and then there's just an ice type, so you also threaten like Kyurem's like all of Lando's like most common Terra types as well, between like Freeze Dry and Earth Power, so definitely like just particularly great at like beating Lando. That's kind of what this mod does really well. All right, so then on Snow, you'll see a couple different sets, but mainly you're going to see AV still. And you can do kind of like whatever, but like getting this like Snow boost to your defense is just like so powerful. So it's usually like Blizzard, Earth Power, Freeze Dry. You can still be like Glaciate, or but you also see like Flash Cannon, like Terra Steel Flash Cannon to help beat DHC for your like Snow team is like quite good as well. So see that a lot. Uh, I kind of do whatever with its EV spread. Like again, it's like so bulky that it doesn't really. It's one of those mods that's so bulky it can kind of just do anything that it wants. But uh, like you could do something like this, like kind of in a mid-range speed tier. Um, I know like the AV, the standard set is like really fast. You could do this as well. You get over like Modest Lando this way. You're still like sizably bulky, although I feel like having a little bit more bulk is nice. So you could run this, but I kind of like prefer a little bit more offensive investment and not as fast. Like it's okay. Like you don't need to be super fast with this guy. You're just training well onto most things. So yeah, something like this is pretty nice. I get a little bit more value out of HP in general with Snow because you're getting like that defense boost anyway. So yeah, something like this is really nice on Snow. You can also see like Specs or whatever. That's usually like kind of like the same moveset. I've also used Scarf before, which is funny, but definitely AV is the main one. You can use Specs as well, but those are the two main Kyurem sets, so they're just quite good. And so let's talk about Ninetales real quick as well. Ninetales, obviously like a very supportive mon. It doesn't really do like a lot of damage or anything, but like Aurora Veil is such a strong move, and you're so fast that you can get it up a lot of the time. And so you often see that like Ninetales and Kyurem is like the main part of it, and then you'll see like Lando is just having that ground damage that Pierce with Ice is so strong, and then helps beat the rock types as well, and then you can be like, it also helps beat Instant, so it's like Kyurem, Ninetales, Lando, and then like +3 you'll often see Dogi as like the Intimidate Punish, and then you'll often have like a setup mon. It could be Bulk Up Dogi with like Drain Punch or Drain Punch knockoff Bulk Up or whatever, or it could be like Combine Bolt with City, or like you could be like Fan Room, you could be like Trick Room with like Ursaluna, Sinistra. A lot of different things you could do with Snow. Like that's kind of what makes it an interesting archetype, but it does have some pretty severe weaknesses. Like most Snow teams are going to struggle a lot into Heartflame, so that's kind of like just the nature of the archetype. You could be like Terra Fire or Water for that, but it's still not a great fix. You often run Encore last year, then you just run like Light Clay usually. We were saying like Sash before or Cloak before, but those are not quite as good in my opinion. I think getting the Aurora Veil for 8 turns is just like really, really valuable, so uh, often something like this, there's like a little bit more of a more optimized spread in here somewhere. It should not be both of these. Blizzard is just like generally better, but like having Protect is nice, but again, you can drop it for like, you can run like Disable Encore, you don't really see that too much, but, or it could be Freeze Dry, yeah, like hitting Wellspring is nice. It could be Moonblast as well. I think this Moonblast is kind of nice, because then you hit Roaring Moon and stuff, which is cool. But yeah, Ghost or Fire or Water is your defensive Terra type, and then, yeah, mainly this is just used to like support other setup sweepers and have that Encore access, which is pretty nice. It's also weather control, though that's not the biggest deal in this format. Uh, Sun and like snow are like kind of the biggest ones. You see sand here and there. Sometimes we'll get into that a little bit in a little bit, but yeah, it's just an archetype that it has some clearly defined weaknesses, but
cover a lot, like Lando covers for a lot of them. So a lot of snow teams, you really want to be making sure you get value out of your Lando, which could often be like effectively be Scarf on these kind of teams, which is nice. So uh, just lots of ways to pin your opponent and like trade effectively with like AV Kirim. So just pretty solid archetype, but yeah, just you have to be cognizant of like opposing Gold and opposing Heartflame and opposing like Flamora, as well as like Chiyu. Like a lot of these like weird offensive like mods that can like just like break through snow even if you have like defensive setup, you know. All right, Rillaboom. So Rillaboom was like a little bit down when like the last VR was updated, but it's a little bit better now because people have like started putting like random grassy seeds on things. Like grassy seed gold has risen up a little bit. Grassy seed Tinglu is a thing now with like body press stuff, and then so this one has like a lot of different options it can do. Uh, this is like kind of like the standard set, but you kind of like each HP to like hit gold or whatever. So you could drop U-turn. You could even drop glide sometimes, but generally dropping U-turn is better. But then you like lose a little bit of that pivoting, so it's not that ideal. Terra Fire is usually like the Terra type of choice in this guy. That's just solid. And you won't be clicking it that much. It's like instant. You're not clicking Terra on this too much, but when you do it, usually is for a specific reason, you know. So it's not bad. And so yeah, this one for a long time we were just like ran something like this, but it's really like not that strong. I think these days a lot of people are running like bulkier stuff. I usually run something like this. It's just like a lot of Spadef. It makes you trade a little bit better into like Torn stuff and like be a little bit more resistant to Omnipresent Bleakwind Storm, which to be fair is a little bit less omnipresent now, but it's still like a thing. So yeah, solid one. Pairs best with like those Grassy Seed guys. You kind of like few things it's bad into. It's bad into Heartflame. Can't really make much progress into that. Even with like HHP or like it's not the greatest into like Gold or Ensign. Although HHP is really nice for those guys, but it's not a perfect solution. Like getting intimidated kind of sucks. But Woodhammer is just like really good at like dealing really strong damage if you need it to. You can often just like get like a big chunk of damage on like a Lando or a Hands or something like that, and it's pretty good. But not the most incredible Pokemon, but getting like that Grassy Surge and like Grassy Terrain and like as well as Fake Out Access is really nice. So it definitely has moved up a bit, at least in my ranking in the last couple months, because people have like kind of figured out better ways to run Rilla and more things to pair it with. So yeah, usually like Grassy Seed mods like Gold or like Tinglu. You can also use it with like Glide stuff with like Heartflame, especially. Sometimes you can use it with Wellspring as well. Just a lot of things that benefit from like Grassy Terrain. Like you could use like Seed Bolt as well. Not super common, but you could definitely do it. Grassy Seed Gambit is kind of a thing. Not as much these days, but in the past it was. So yeah, solid Pokemon. All right, Roy and Boo. This is like a mod that's seen a lot of like uptick in usage recently. Uh, and this Pokemon is just like so good at setting Tailwind and spamming Breaking Swipe and Knockoff, and yeah, it's just like really good. You can also run like Taunt over Protect on this guy. Terra Fairy, Terra Ghost, Terra Poison, they're all really nice. They all give you that like immunity, like resistance to fighting, which is pretty big. You can also be Terra Flying with Acro, although that set is not as common, but you can run Acro here and then like Terra Flying, and then you like kill Ogerpod pretty well, so that's pretty good. But Breaking Swipe, Knockoff, Tailwind, Taunt, or Protect is really nice. So and then I just kind of like being as fast as possible, and then like the set I've run for a long time is like 104 defense and like 152 HP. It's just like really bulky. And then you live like basically everything after Breaking Swipe. You live POW after Breaking Swipe, you live Hands after Breaking Swipe, but that's just really nice. So just good Tailwind utility mod that has kind of like risen up to like rival Torn a little bit. Pairs really well with stuff like Lando, which like beats a lot of its checks, and pairs really well with Wellspring. It just pairs like really well with like a lot of the great mods in the tier. Just like that Dragon defensive type is really, really nice. Pairs really well with Gold, I mentioned earlier, for like Breaking Swiping stuff for it. And Tailwind Access is really nice. You can really struggle to make progress into like some of these Trick Room teams, but that's what Taunt is really helpful for. I say this like more and more as like the fourth move on Moon over Protect, although I think Protect still has like so much merit, thanks to being able to like kind of like stall out your own Tailwind to get Tailwind up again, which is really nice. Another weakness of this mod is kind of like Timid Regidrago plus Torn could be kind of an issue. But that's why I like Terra Fairy. It just like makes you more consistent into that. But Ghost is really nice for dodging Thick Out as well. So Ghost is maybe the common Terra type on it right now. It's just really good. Uh, really bulky Pokemon. Just sits on the field, is annoying. Kind of like helps support a lot of like the bulkier Tailwind guys, Tailwind like attackers better than Torn does, because Torn just doesn't have anything like Breaking Swipe. Like I guess you could click Chilling Water, but like that's not the same thing. And then Knockoff is obviously really nice. Knockoff is really nice next to like Lando. Like you knock off AVs from like stuff like Dogi or Hands and just like kill them. You can knock off like leftovers from mods that are going to be like too annoying to kill. You can knock off Citrus Berry. So many different things you can do with knockoff. It's kind of situationally useful, but when it's useful, it's really useful. So that's kind of the main thing. So that's Moon for you. Main things it struggles into are kind of like these Clear Amulet or like Cloak mods that are immune to Breaking Swipe. But then, because then you have to knock off them first, but sometimes you won't even know with Moon if they're like that set, and so then you have to Breaking Swipe them, and then it does nothing, and then they hit you for a lot, and then you just click knock off and then you die, so kind of struggles into that as well. The fairy types that exist are annoying, like Ninetales, Snow stuff is annoying for it. But usually it has to cover well with that between like Ensign and like Gold, which are really good partners for you. The main downside, to be honest, of Moon as next support is you are like a little bit, you're not quite as good into like Lando as like Tortoise. You're not immune to it, but you can still knock off its life orb and take less damage from it. But you have to be like pretty mindful of Lando when you're building with Moon, because like you can't the fact that your Tailwind mod is like susceptible to Lando and like can take like 50 or 60 from it is like kind of bad, but it's not that big a deal. Like Moon's F is so high that it's still okay. So and you just have so much HP. So great Pokemon, one of my personal favorites. All right, Sinistra, another Pokemon like Moon that probably will be moving up, I guess, next time. But Citrus Berry, Hospitality, just really nice. It doesn't have Arcaludon to pair with anymore, but it's still so nice to have like Trick Room access. Pair well with like Moltres, like Galarian Moltres is like a setup mod. It could pair well with like Bolt as a setup mod, stuff like that. As well as like pairing just like it being like a really solid like Trick Room setter for like Ursaluna or something is really nice. Like normal Ursaluna just hits so hard, and so it's just a great like way to set that up, and then ensure that your Ursaluna just gets more value. You have like range powder access as well, which is really nice. You have Watcha Gotcha, which is just a completely busted move. But mainly this is just like a hospitality guide. Just get like HP back into your guys and then set Trick Room for some of them. The fourth move could be like a lot of different things. It could be Protect, it could be Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is really nice for hitting gold, because a lot of mods you'll pay with Sinistra can like really appreciate like having that to hit opposing Sinistra and gold. Especially like Bronzong. If you're running Bronzong, you need Shadow Ball. Or if you're running DNC, you need Shadow Ball. You can also run Life Dew for like extra healing. I like Strength Sap, which is like hilariously funny and like restores so much of your HP. Protect is also really strong because like it's not really telegraphed on Sinistra. Like you could be Protect, you might not be. So that's really valuable. Usually for an EV spread, you'll just go here. I like hitting like one jump weight in defense and then like dumping in Spin F, and then like you're just really solid. You'll live like most things. Not much will really kill you from this. It's really just like Heartflame or like set up gold that can do that. Then as far as Terra goes, like you kind of just want to be something that lets you get Trick Room up in weird situations. Dark is nice, Fire is okay, Water is okay. Dark is really nice because it makes you immune to like Taunt, Trickster mod, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, interesting typing for this guy. Matcha Gotcha is like a really solid move. Like you'll never drop it just because it's so good at like potentially like in some matchups. Like sometimes you just fish for a bird and sometimes you get it and you just win that way. So that's really nice. This is just a good mod. I really think it's paired with Ursaluna and like Bronzong stuff really like puts it over the edge. Just like a great like tier 2 Pokemon. And Range Powder access is nice as well. It's just so many teams you can use this with, and you can just make Pokemon so much more annoying. Accounting for like the possibility that it switches in and gives like its ally like 25% of its HP back is just like so strong. So really good Pokemon. All right, let's talk about normal or Blood Moon Ursaluna. Let's see. Okay, so this Pokemon, a couple different things it does. AV is like perhaps the most common these days. Hyper Voice, Blood Moon. This Pokemon is just so bulky. Earth Power, Vacuum Wave. Vacuum Wave is really nice. You can pick off POW with it. Then you could be like a variety of defensive tier. It's like Ghosts that like vary. Both of them are fine. It's a sample set for this. I don't think it's like as bulky as I personally prefer, but it definitely is like has most of the pieces here. I'll usually like drop a little bit of special attack on this guy, and then like to here, and then run like a little bit more HP or Speed F. You just become like really really bulky. And then you can run fast with this guy, or you can run slow. Obviously this one's a little bit faster, so it can't afford to run as much bulk, but if you were like a little bit slower for some Trick Room teams, like that's okay as well. A lot of different move pool options you can run in this third move slot. You can run Vacuum Wave, which is most common. You can run Snarl, not super common anymore, but you can run it. And then like Moonblast is kind of nice, and some it's like kind of like a neutral attacking button, which is pretty cool. And so that's really nice. That's kind of mainly it for this guy. You can also run like CM, not a super common set, so I won't like fully describe it out here, but you can run that as well. And then you can also run be like Life Orb or Saluna Blood Moon. Less common these days. Used to be more common on like kind of these like Farig semi-room structures. So like Hyper Voice, Blood Moon, like Terra Normal, Hyper Voice, and Blood Moon just do so much damage. And then obviously like Earth Power like is really nice, and then like having Mind's Eye and not having anything that's like immune to it is really good. So this is like a little bit more offensive. You give up so much bulk for this, but it does so much damage, and it can use effectively both in Tailwind and Trick Room, which is really valuable. So you just barely get overpower in Tailwind too, which is really nice. We've seen a lot less of these like these Life Orb Blood Moons, but they're still so threatening. You could probably see them like really slow on Trick Room as well. We haven't seen those in a while, but the damage output is there. Even if we're not seeing it as much. Blood Moon is just such a strong attack. Like, it's kind of ridiculous, and not having any immunities is just crazy. So, good Pokemon. But mostly AV these days. I think, honestly, Ursaluna has kind of been passed by like the other one a little bit, but let's actually go ahead and talk about that as soon as we finish up talking about Ursaluna. But yeah, this one pairs really nice. It's like just a fat guy you can put with Roaring Moon sometimes, and like have Vacuum Wave to pick off POW and stuff, and then it's just like kind of like a good, like it's just a big ball of stats, and that's just like really nice. Blood Moon is just like really good damage when you need it. It's good at dealing with gold as well, thanks to that like big Speed F boost from AV, so that's nice as well. It pairs pretty well with like Dietsu stuff, whereas this guy pairs more well with like Farigiraf Torn stuff, which again we haven't seen as much of, but it definitely still exists if you want to like make it work. So it is definitely a thing. Okay, I'm gonna take a break for a second. All right, we're back. So main weaknesses of this guy are kind of just like it can sometimes like if it doesn't have like all the damage output there, or if it gets like in a position where it doesn't have speed control, it can kind of just get whacked by stuff and then eventually die, or get like doubled into because it doesn't have protect and stuff like that. So Wellspring can like hit it pretty hard. It won't kill it. I mean, that's the nice thing about this set. Like you're not dying in one hit to most things, but could still get got by like power and stuff, and like getting doubled into by things because you don't have protect. So that's like an ideal, but definitely can be paired with like likes to be paired with speed control, but it can also be used in like I also kind of like it with like snow because it's pretty nice as just like a rock resist, and it can help deal with like Glamora and stuff pretty well, which I think is a particular benefit of this guy for teams that are weak to Glamora. All right, so let's talk about Tier 4 now. We'll go a little bit quicker for these guys. They're not quite as strong as the Mons above them. But Entei is like a really strong Mon with Sacred Fire. It does a lot of damage. Weird positions. It's not as good into Wellspring. It's just a little bit outstatted, but Sacred Fire Extreme Speed is nice. You can use Choice Band or AV next to POW, and that's pretty nice. Like you can use it kind of as an E-Speed clicker, but it doesn't do as much damage as Dragonite, but it has a little bit more defensive benefit with AV. If you're Choice Band, like, the damage is pretty comparable, and you have, like, a better, like, click outside of Extreme Speed, but the typing is not quite as good as Dragonite. Like, you're vulnerable to like, Lando and stuff, and Wellspring, which kind of sucks, and, like, the power fall-off from Dragonite kind of is not good, but you're still not bad. Like, AV Entei is, like, pretty bulky, and, like, it's to spam Sacred Fire, so it's definitely a fine Pokemon. Being immune to Intimidate is really nice. you're quite good into gold as well, which is nice as well. If you could just run like really bulky and like this is just a good Pokemon, but uh, there's like a lot of Pokemon in this tier you can put AV on and just have them be bulky, and Entei is just kind of one of them. And it's not like uh, it's just like not particularly incredible. Like it's not bad, but like Choice Band gives up on like so much of that bulk from AV that's kind of why we don't really see it as opposed to like Dragonite. So if you're gonna see it, you're gonna use it with like AV with POW probably, but Extreme Speed's a really good move. Don't get me wrong. And Saber Fire is really good as well, but just not the most common Pokemon in the world. But you can definitely make use of it with POW. POW like Entei Wellspring is pretty good, and then Lando, and then it could be like kind of like a little bit. It could be a POW team with like a little bit more defensive backbone, but it's not the greatest thing in the world. Like it's also like it kind of competes with Gouging Fire as well as like the Fire type on these teams. Gouging Fire has like a lot more utility, so if it weren't for Gouging Fire, this mod would probably be more used. They also took away Howl from it in this game, which kind of sucks because Howl and Entei would have been really nice with these POW teams to boost up your like your damage with. This is wrong. You should not be minus Spinef. But unfortunately, it doesn't have that anymore, so that kind of sucks. But that's a pretty okay move pool. I wouldn't really use anything other than AV or CB on it, though. Like, yeah, that's mostly it for this guy. Okay. Farigiraf. We were just talking about Farigiraf as like a Trick Room setter a couple minutes ago with Ursaluna. But yeah, this Pokemon its niche is it blocks priority moves. Zarina kind of fell off a lot entering this gen, so that kind of this is kind of like the premier block priority guy, block fake out or whatever. So it's not bad. Trick Room stuff. We usually see this guy with like you usually see this guy with like Torn stuff, like Torn, Farigiraf, Regigigas is like a major archetype. There's a sample team with that. But this Pokemon's not as bulky as some of the other Trick Room setters, and that kind of sucks. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage either. So it's really just this priority block, which is like not bad, but it's not ideal. Terra Fury is really nice on it though. You can run like Front Spay. That's like kind of like the main item on it, but it's a little bit understated. You can run like Helping Hand though. Like the priority block is definitely really nice. We saw like a lot of this like a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago now. Like it was like Derby 2. We saw a lot of SV teams that were like semi-room with Farigiraf, and that's like definitely a valuable niche. I wouldn't rank it lower than tier 5 probably. Like that's still like a solid niche, you know, but we just don't see it as much anymore, and like it has like this weird stat spread where like its defense stats are like quite weak or whatever, so that kind of sucks as well. So, you know, what are you gonna do? Something like this is like probably not that bad though. But yeah, it's okay. Like this Pokemon's completely fine. But like we've definitely like seen less of these like Ursaluna Farigiraf teams. But they definitely are like okay. Like having the option to have like both a fast mode and a Trick Room Center, and having like Farigiraf block priority for your fast mode as well is really nice. But these teams like they kind of struggled a lot into like gold, I think. So that kind of sucks. And then like Horde in general could be a little bit trickier to use these days, but it's definitely like a valid archetype. All right, let's talk about Heatran. Oh yeah, also like it can struggle into like stuff like Spammy Snarl as well. Like a lot of this archetype, like that was kind of its main issue. Like stuff that like lowers your special attack kind of sucks for you. Like Tinglu is annoying. You're kind of bad into POW as well, especially if POW like runs Throat Chop, then it's just like kind of dire. So there's that. Definitely an okay archetype though. Okay. Heatran. So this guy is like okay, it's like really understated. I wouldn't even really call it tier 4 anymore, but sub Heatran is still like quite good. Like sub Heatwave Earth Power, it's most of the tier. Don't have a whole lot to say on this guy. Kind of sucks into Wellspring, sucks into Lando. Does have Terra, but it's not like the days where we had Flutter, where this Pokemon was like so much more valuable than it is now. So that's kind of like the main problem with this guy. But you can just like run like a little bit of speed invest, get over Power with Tailwind, and then it could be like really bulky, and then you have sub, and then it's not bad really, but it's like whatever, you know, it's not the greatest Pokemon in the world. Like okay, like you're kind of annoying to deal with, but eventually teams are gonna find a way through you, and like you're not gonna like make enough progress. Like the damage output's not that great in this tier, and the defensive role is like not as strong as when Flutter Mane was legal. You can also use like Magma Storm stuff with like Dozo and like Yawn stuff. But we don't really see too much of that. Like we do see it, but usually like
if you see that, it's gonna be with like something else. It'll be like Tialu Dozo and not Heatran Dozo, but you could probably do that as well. But yeah, this Pokemon is like unfortunately a little bit understated compared to the tier. Uh, the typing is quite good, but it's not super great in like the it's not super great into like Lando and stuff, so that kind of sucks. Lando Wellspring. Uh, so yeah, definitely a thing. Uh, but yeah, this Pokemon is not very common. Like, but you can get value out of it. It's kind of nice with Snow in particular because Snow really appreciates getting that uh, like that fire type that's not weak to rock, which is actually really nice. But yeah, this Pokemon's not that great. But my main ideas for it, if I were to use it, I'd use a Magma Storm with uh like Dozo, or I'd use it on like Snow or whatever. And like also like if you're using it on Snow, then you can just like run like Flash Cannon or whatever. Like Life Form Heatran's probably not that bad either. You can also run like Iron Press Heatran, which is a thing. Like it can be like really annoying to deal with like mod with this defensive profile. Uh clicking Iron Defense, but uh this is more like a DOU thing. You don't really see it as much in DOU, but you could probably get value with it. It's not the worst Pokemon in the world, but it's also just like not that great. That's kind of what a lot of these tier 4 is. Iron Bundle, uh, kind of like rare Snowmon. You can run like Spexelvit. I've run it a few times. It's really feels pretty nice. It's just like so fast, which is quite good. Like getting over POW is cool, and being a Snowmon that hits like instant really hard and it just kills it is really cool. But uh, it's just like really vulnerable to opposing speed control, and that's kind of this guy's main weakness. Booster speed, like you could definitely do that as well. Like at that point, like we're still faster than a lot of things, even under Tailwind, but it's not like Free Home where you like literally like nothing outspeed you, even under Tailwind. So definitely not as strong as it was then. But Icy Wind is still okay. It's utility bot. It also has Encore, which is okay, but this Pokemon just it's just not quite there, unfortunately, but it can do a couple of fun things with Snow. You could also be like AV, which I think has like some kind of use outside of Snow, but it's like I think that the strongest use for this guy is really just as like you're just running choice specs on it on Snow and like you're doing a bunch of damage, but it's still whatever, you know. You could make it really fat and then like rely on like the interesting coverage moves it has. It has pivoting, but is what it is. Like the thing I kind of like with Bundle I've used before. It's not the strongest, but you could use it with like a U-turn mod with like Power Flamora. You can like U-turn yourself and get like that toxic spikes up, and then you also have Icy Wind plus Meteor Beam threatened under return, which is really cool. So definitely like an okay mod, but I'd mostly just use it on Snow, and even then it's not that common. So definitely like a tier 4, tier 5 Pokemon. Okay, Lando T, this Pokemon kind of sucks, but you can run like Scarf on it. Uh, like Scarf is definitely okay with like POW. You get like Terra Blast Flying, which is really strong. You can like U-turn, Stopping Tantrum's not bad. Um, and then like Stone Edge was cool. Like you can hit like Corn, or you can be like Earthquake over like Stomping Tantrum or over Stone Edge or whatever, but or even over Terra Blast. So it's not that bad, but it's not as good as it's like the other one. You can run like support with like Taunt and like Stealth Rock or whatever, but generally Gomora is going to be a better Stealth Rock setter, so not that great, but it's okay. Like the typing's alright. Like you switch in well into like opposing Lando Eye, so that's good, but you also don't really have a way of threatening it for much damage at all, unless you click like Terrifying Terra Blast, but then Terra Blast is just like not super strong in this metagame because it means like you're giving up your Terra for the full game, so that just like reduces a lot of your flexibility, and that's like not that great, so that's okay though. Alright, Mew, let's see. This Pokemon has a few different things it can do in this metagame. Usually it's like coaching Tailwind stuff, like Fallen Puff, or like coaching and like Ice Beam or whatever, but you can also run rocks, you can run T-Spikes. These are all things you can do with it. You could be like Citrus or Cloak. It just has like so many utility options, but the problem is like losing Fake Out was really bad for it. It's like a lot harder to like just by putting you on a lot of your teams in this tier, but it still has enough to like make an impact on things, but it's not the worst. If you run like to here, like you can get like kills on no bulk Lando with Ice Beam, but Lando even runs bulky now, so I don't even know how much value you get out of that. Pollen Puff's a good move, Tailwind's a good move, Coaching's a good move. Other things it could do, uh, can click Trick Room as well. It's like okay mod, but you can like click like coaching next to like the Yancy or whatever and stuff like that, which is kind of nice. But generally like a little bit do nothing, unfortunately, but it's not that bad. It's fine. Like I won't call these teams bad with Mew. Like Stealth Rock's nice, Stealth Rock Axis is nice, Snarl Axis is nice. But at the end of the day, it's like sometimes it just feels like it doesn't get enough done. And that just is what it is. But Sea Spikes is okay. But again, like most of it does a lot of different things, but there's always something better than it at doing what it's doing. And so that is kind of hard to just makes it hard to justify. Even though like it does a lot of different like the versatility of Mew is incredible, but it doesn't quite get enough because it doesn't have fake out. Like the compressions that it gets are no longer as valuable most of the time compared to like just running like something else that does like an individual role better. Whereas in like Gen 8 where it has fake out, like obviously like it has so much more it can do. So yeah. And there's also like Demon Mew in Gen 8, like in this gen you lost Cosmic Power on it, so that's kinda sad. So you can't even do that anymore. Okay. Galarian Moltres. So this is a really, really bulky Pokemon. With a few different like nasty plot sets and use cases. So Fiery Wrath, then you run Air Slash or Tailwind. Sometimes you run Tailwind. It's not the greatest Tailwind clicker in the world, but it can do it because it's so bulky. They usually run Citrus Berry. You pair this guy with like Sinistra. You can often pair it with like on Snow. It's just like really, really bulky Pokemon behind screen. So difficult to deal with. Air Slash. It's pretty nice. Most of the time you're clicking Fire Wrath, so that's why people are comfortable dropping it for Tailwind, but I still feel like dropping Air Slash kind of sucks. But yeah, you can definitely run Tailwind. It's like a speed control guy on these like snow teams that also has the ability to like step and be annoying. And then you just like run a little bit of like Spidef investment with Spidef boost and nature, like a little bit of speed, and then dump it in special attack. And this Pokemon is just like good. Like it's just bulky and really difficult to deal with, especially with like other damage mitigation. And so it can be difficult to stop this Pokemon from getting going. Like there's a sister team with like Roaring Moon, Sinistra, Plot Galtris that's pretty good. And so it's really nice in that context of just like setting up and clicking nasty plot. Sometimes you can see Terra Blast over Air Slash or Tailwind as well, but uh, really I think this is the most common set. But it's just the use cases for it are like kind of slim, but like when you use it, it like turns out to be like okay, so it's pretty good. Uh, Kind of standard textbook tier 4 Pokemon. Maybe you could argue low tier 3, but the use cases for it are kind of small. But when it does, it like the mod is like pretty good if you like support it well. So just because of the bulk and like Berserk is pretty nice for like an extra special attack boost. But yeah, we've seen Galtrix City for like a couple of years now. It's just a good move set. But yeah, okay. All right, Cutter Stone. Cutter Stone is like the least used Ogre except for like Ogre with no mask. But this Pokemon is still pretty good. Like the Rock type is good offensively. Spiky Shield. I kind of like knockoff on it for hitting gold, which is pretty good. But you can also be like Power Whip. So this guy kind of pairs well with like random setups where like you can use it with like Volt or whatever. But use cases for this are kind of slim because most of the time you're gonna want one of the other Ogre Ponds. But in rare situations, you do want the Rock type. Um, Dealing with the Fire type really well. Dealing with like Snow really well. Um, like offensively, like the Rock type is honestly just like really good, but uh, it's not quite as like defensively. The Rock type's not quite as good as like Wellspring or like Harflin, like Water or Fire type, you know. So Sturdy's okay as well, but I don't know. It's just this Pokemon's really like not that bad, but uh, I feel like tearing into Rock type kind of sucks a little bit more than tearing into Water or Fire. That's kind of like the main weakness of this guy. I mean, Sturdy's okay, but like, you know, a lot of the times the Ogre Pawns are bulky enough to eat one hit, so you don't always get the most value out of it. Sometimes it's really good though, but it's not a bad mod. This is like kind of like the king of like doubles UU, or queen, I guess, of doubles UU. But it's not like in DOU it's just like a little bit less value usually than running one of the other Ogre Pods. So unless you like specifically need to deal with like Snow and like Incineroar at the same time, then like probably you want to run one of the other Ogre Pods in general, but it's not bad. Like the offensive damage is okay. You could probably also click SU with this guy, but we don't really see that, so
Definitely like a completely fine mod. You could definitely use it in DOU, but it's just this is just opportunity cost like of using the other one. I think one of the other main things is like you're kind of like with Ogrepon and Cornerstone, you're not good into like Lando or Gold like the other ones are. So you're not as good into like some of the top mods, and whereas like you're good into Incin, but like so is Wellspring, you know, and like that's kind of like you're good into Snow, but so is Heartflame. So that's kind of like specifically why we probably see this guy a little bit less. I kind of had like a little bit harder time explaining it than probably should have, but like the mod is like fundamentally like okay. It's just the other ones usually cover what you want it to do. So yeah. Okay. Okie dokie. So this is a Pokemon that definitely is like tier 2 or tier 3. It was just like it was relatively unexplored before CPL and FPL. So this Pokemon has two main sets. It has AV with like Gunk Shot. Gunk Shot's just a really strong move if you hit it. You run like Knockoff, like Terra Dark, um, like Drain Punch. Could be CC. It's usually Drain Punch though. You punish Instant really hard, makes the Guard Dog, getting like a attack boost every time you get intimidated. Um, and so it's just quite good. And then you can run like Ice Punch or like HHP or something like that, and it's just pretty nice. Um, it's just a strong mod. Sometimes you just run Psychic things from the mirror. This Pokemon's just really good and really bulky. Uh, Dunk Shot just hits like most of the tier for like so much damage. The base power on this move is so high. Like the damage you get from this move will just be like so impressive a lot of the time. Like you just like won't expect to do as much as it does. And then like Speed and Death, you can run like a little bit, but usually you just want to run like HP and attack. But yeah, this is just good Intimidate Punish. You could use it with like hands. You could use it with like Gouger, like we saw earlier. Uh, and yeah, this one with AV, it's a little bit more splashable, but you can also run like Bulk Up. And Bulk Up Dogi is like uh, so difficult to deal with on the physical side of the spectrum. Like this is like single-handedly probably the best Pokemon at dealing with like some of these physical offense teams. Like the standard set is like this, which is fine, but personally I'm like a little bit more biased towards like I like the set that actually drops Protect. Yeah, like this. Yeah, you can run like this. Like Drain Punch Knockoff is like pretty okay coverage, but you are like a little bit soft into landed. So I actually prefer this weird set that lets Ice Punch and then like not Ice Fang, Ice Punch and then like HHP. And so you like basically hit everything in the tier. And then I run like Terra Fairy too, and then like it's a great neutral Terra. You just like kind of hit everything. Uh, Obviously like dropping Protect is like quite situational, but uh, like it's still just very good. Um, and the situations where like you just like click bulk up and it's so difficult for opponents to like take you down. And so it's a great mod. Uh, yep. Yeah, what else about this guy? So yeah, like Lando's annoying for it. That's why I kind of like Ice Punch. Like at least you're able to hit it if you have speed control in your favor. So this version definitely wants like some form of like speed control, like Roaring Wind or whatever. Just being a bulk up mod that like is not susceptible to instant is just like so valuable in this format. And uh, even regardless of what your set is, like you're still gonna have something for gold. Gold is like really something you want to have something for. But AV is definitely just like nice. Like Gunk Shot is like the main perk of this. Like you're just like Oko, like all the Ogre Pawns at neutral. And you do like 90% even if they Terra. So it's just like crazy like how strong this move is if you land it. But yeah, just a really strong Pokemon. Okay, moving on here. Let's see. Pelipper. Okay, so Pelipper, uh, this is the Pokemon is mostly jobless without Arcaludon, but it's definitely like an okay range setter. Use it with like Kingdra or like Vascular Legion, Tailwind, Wide Guard. Um, Weather Ball, Hurricane, not bad. You run it with like Cloak or like Damp Rock or like Sash, with the various degrees of like defensive investment. Um, it's like it's not the worst thing. Like there are worse Pokemon, but generally this mod is not as like it's just generally not as strong as everything else in the tier. So you really have to justify it with like partners like Kingdra or Basket Legion. They have to like a really guaranteed like solid use for them. But it's kind of nice having the rain for like gold and stuff. Like rain gold is pretty good. Like that's like the only main reason to use rain in my opinion. Um, but
it's definitely like okay. Like being able to like hit Lando is nice. Blind type is of course not bad in this tier. Hurricane for like Wellspring is nice. But your bulk is just like so tragic. Um, and you just don't do that much damage. Like your stats are just not there. Like there's not really much else to say, but definitely like an okay like range center. Pelipper and Politoed both kind of like equal amounts of mid. But Pelipper has like a more offensive slant, so there's that. Um, but I think like Pokemon like Kingdra and Basculin in general, like Basca, like they're not like that great, but they're like they can still be like quite frightening in the range. So it does give Pelipper like a bit of a niche. All right, Regidrago. So Regidrago obviously has like the strongest spread move in like the entire game in terms of Dragon Energy. Um, and it just like really likes to be paired with like opposing like with its own like Torn or whatever. Like it's really like Torn, Drago, and then like Lando for like gold, and then you run like gold for like the fairy types, and then you run like +2, and then like this archetype's just like really offensive. It's like the other variant of like Torn HO, as opposed to like the Spectre Cheeryu stuff. Um, and so yeah, this mod just like runs like Dragon Drago Plate, Draco Meteor, Dragon Energy, Earth Power, Protect. Sometimes you can run like Scarf or like Specs. In the modern day, I think Timid is the best set on it because it allows you to get over Roaring Moon under Tailwind, which is really valuable. Like if you run like anything less than Timid Max, like you basically like you get outsped and it like just kind of feels sad. But I think that's one of like the main strengths of Regidrago at the moment is punishing Roaring Moon, forcing it to Terra or stuff like that. It's just like it's just very difficult for Roaring Moon teams to handle like Tailwind Dragon Energy, you know. Um, And also, like I've seen Cloak on this guy before, which is just diabolical, but it's definitely like it definitely works. Um, so yeah, just good strong Pokemon. Likes to be paired particularly well with like Gold, Torn, because Gold like helps deal with like Ninetales and DNC, all the fairy types. So you really can't use this guy without Gold, but yeah, you definitely like a pretty good one. But yeah, kind of like the main weakness of like Gold Trigo is like opposing Gold can be quite annoying. So having like a mon like Lando or like Heartflame or something is really nice. And then also like Fergaraf has been paired successfully with it in the past, just for blocking takeout and stuff. All right. Nope, that's what I want to do. New box. Okay. So Tinglu, this is a Pokemon that seems like a lot of use with like Gouging Fire. Most recently, I think the strongest set with this guy, you can use leftovers with like rocks and like Whirlwind or like Ruination. Ruination is just really strong in like making progress and like stopping Tantrum. And this set's like okay, but really I think the strongest set at the moment is Grassy Seed with Body Press. Um, Body Press is just so strong off coming off that +1 to and you can set rocks. It could also be Whirlwind over rocks, or it could be like any number of like other different things. It could be like Heavy Slam as well. Um, but yeah, this is just like a really strong set. I like this is kind of like the EV spread I prefer. Um, and it's just like so good at making progress. Like it's so difficult to remove when this mod has like a +1 defense boost, you know. Um, and usually you'll see like Terra Poison. We've also seen like Terra Fighting before to do like increased damage with Body Press, but those are like kind of like the main uh, options that you'll see. And yeah, so this Pokemon's just like quite good at making progress and trading well, and just being really, really annoying to deal with. Um, so yeah, that's mainly Tinglu. So like, use with it with like Gouger and stuff like that. All right, moving on. Right, Torkoal. This is like kind of like the Sunsetter. You can see it with like more offensive teams. Um, this is kind of like the standard set usually. Like Charcoal. You can use like Specs as well, but Choice Locking and Eruption like gives a little bit of overkill to be honest. So the ability to change moves is kind of nice. And so yeah, you'll see this guy with like DNC trick and stuff. I can see this with like Full Room with uh Ursaluna and stuff. You can also see it with like Lilligant and Hisui. We'll talk about Lilligant at the same time here. And Lilligant has After You. which is really good. And then you get like sleep powder and stuff, and like chlorophyll, and it's just really annoying. You can also use some of the more fringe like sun boosters, like Walking Wake. You can also use like Roaring, not Roaring Moon, Raging Bolt is quite good under sun. But it's really Wake, Mulligan, and Torkoal, and then you can use it with like more. You can either have like a Trick Room or you can just be like full like Sun offense. But it's just a strong mod under Trick Room. It gets in the right position, and it just like does so much damage, right? Like, and then like CC, and then like Protect, or like Solar Blade. These are just like really strong options to have on Mulligan. And so after you Eruption is just like really strong, even in spite of the fact that it can get redirected by Ogre Pawn. So that's kind of like the main weakness of this guy is like you're gonna get redirected by Ogre Pawn with after you, and then like obviously it does nothing, but then you can just like still like double it up into it with like CC and like do like so much damage. So definitely really threatening offensive for. And then Wake is usually like Life Orb, like Hydro Steam, just like really strong in Sun. Draco Meteor is really strong. You can also be like AV with like Snarl and stuff. Um, so yeah, these mons are like not particularly great, but I'll just run briefly with like you're only really using them with Torkoal anyways, so that's kind of the main thing. Let's see. Hydro Steam. Usually you'll run this guy to be like Weather Ball or like Flamethrower with Terrifier. It's quite good. Um, but yeah, this one usually runs like special attack booster, or not special attack booster. You can usually run speed booster, but you can also read special attack booster. But yeah, it's okay. It's not that bad. But it kind of requires Sun, and then like Walking Wake Torkoal is just like it's like one Pokemon for the price of two, so it's like a little bit outclassed. All right, Ursaluna. Ursaluna is a good like really really strong splashable Trick Room attacker. Like this was one of the most threatening Pokemon in the tier. Headlong Rush, Earthquake if you have something to click it next to, like Cress, just really good. Ghost, like being able to like just like block takeout during Trick Room is really nice. My preferred set is something like this, just like a lot of SPDF investment in general, so it's pretty good. And then yeah, you just like run a lot of attack investment, and then, like Flame Orb Guts aside, with like all these moves are just like ridiculous. Its power, it's really difficult to get on this safely. Um, and so it just pairs really well with like Sinistra, Deancey, or Caress. Any mods that like set Trick Room really well are quite good with Ursaluna. This Pokemon's really splashable. Definitely like a tier 3 mod. Tier 4 is a little bit too low for it. Um, and so yeah, now we're going to talk about Volcanion really quick. Volcanion, similar to Heatran, not as good as it used to be, but AV is still quite good. Trades really well. Steam Eruption, Earth Power, Overheat is really nice. Just like a single target fire move that just blows things up. Personally quite fond of. And it's like pretty good as like a mon that can help these like Trick Room teams like deal with Gold a little bit better, because Gold is really good into like basically every Trick Room setter, which is kind of annoying, but definitely like it's definitely like a fine mon. You can use it with Torn as well, but I don't think that's as good. I think it's mostly good like on Trick Room. You probably still want to be over like most of the hands in Incin, but yeah, it's just an okay mon. It just has like so much stats. Steam Eruption's a really broken move. I don't think this mon is as bad as Heatran is, but it's not good either. But I think specifically with like these Trick Room teams that need to be able to handle Gold, it's pretty nice. It also handles Snee pretty well. Just like Overheat is kind of what makes this mon for me. Like, you could also be like sub with this guy, but I feel like it just doesn't make as much progress. Like having like the extra stats from AV is just really good on this mon. Okay, finally in the final tier. I'll probably run through these really quick. Yeah, Bascaf. This is just kind of like standard Flip Swim mon. Flip turn, choice band, whatever. It's not bad, but it's definitely a little bit outclassed. Kingdra, same thing. Like Kingdra is nice because it has. I think Kingdra's like a little bit better because it has Hurricane access, which is nice. And Muddy Water is just strong as well. Both these guys have Muddy Water, but Kingdra I think is a little bit better. It just does a little bit more things to having Hurricane, and then like the typing is better. So in practice, I think Kingdra's typing makes the block a little bit better. Timid Kingdra might need to be explored because it does actually get over Moon, which is kind of nice. But Timid, like Modest, kind of sucks because it doesn't get over Moon, which feels kind of sad. But Terrifier is a really good defensive typing for it, so it's not bad. Okay, Cresselia. just like really bulky Trick Room Setter next to like Ursaluna mainly. That's kind of the main reason to use this guy. Just really good. Lunar Blessing, Trick Room, Ice Beam, or like Psychic or whatever. It's not the greatest thing, but it is so bulky that it doesn't really matter. Like it will get Trick Room up more often than not. So Mental Orb's pretty nice on it as well, I think, currently, because a lot of things are like slapping Taunt on for like this matchup, but if you can actually get Trick Room up, it is quite good. It also run Cloak. Lunar Blessing is just a good move. Alright, Deoxys Speed. This mod is usually like a rock sitter. Sometimes you can see it more offensively used with like Life Orb next to like Chiyu and stuff, so that's pretty cool. It's so fast that it gets over a lot of like the Scarf guys and even some stuff in Tailwind, so definitely not bad. But Moon being good kind of sucks for it, to be honest, because Moon outspeeds it and like can flick knock off into it. But it has some stuff it can do. Rocks is just really good. And specifically like guaranteeing setting rocks, it's one of the best at doing it, but it feels kind of sad. You can also run like, I like running like Life Orb with it, with like Icy Wind, Psycho Boost, and then like Flash Cannon is nice next to like Chiyu, and then like Rocks. And then like this helps cover for like a few different things. You have Icy Wind for your Chiyu as well, so it's just kind of nice. But other than that, I don't really think this mod is particularly strong. Alright, Dragapult, I don't really see this guy anymore, but it's quite good next to like, with like Terra Blast. Like random Terra Blast Barrier, Terra Blast Ghost next to POW. Just really strong, so fast. It does struggle into a poison speed control. Yeah, so that's mainly the thing with Bolt next to POW. Let's see. Choice Band, U-turn, Dragon Darts, strong moves, Terra Blast, and then like Phantom Force last. This can definitely be used, but Tier 5 is like perfect for it. Like you don't see it this too much, but it is a fringe thing you can use with POW, and it just like does ridiculous damage. It's kind of unfair. But it does have like, it loses a lot of defensive positioning to do so it's not quite as usable as Dragonite. Excadrill is like a weird sandwich mod used with like Terra Bug X-Scissor that can hit a lot of targets in the tier. To hit like Roaring Moon, hits Wellspring, stuff like that. It's okay. The mod is really understated, but as a Sand Sweeper, it's the best we have in the tier because there's no Dracovish or Dracosult. Then Grimmsnarl is just like kind of standard like support with like Light Spin Reflect. Hoopa is another Trick Room guy with Expanding Force. It's one of the better clickers. It has so much Spadef that it's usable. If you really want like something to like click Trick Room that does like a lot of Spadef, it's not bad. It's pretty good into Gold specifically. That's what Hoopa does. What else here? Kamo is really good as like an Iron Press mod, but it does have some weaknesses. It's pretty bad into Lando, which is kind of sad. But you can definitely get through it with like some support, like Body Press, Iron Defense, like Stab Body Press is really strong from Kamo. Latios is fast. It hits pretty hard. You can use it as like next to like Chiyu and stuff. It can be used as a Tailwind guy, but although it hits hard, it's not like, it's a little bit outclassed in Gen 9. Orform, similar defensive profile to like Bronzong. Where is Bronzong, by the way? Oh, there it is. Oh, Bronzong is like, both of these mons are like immune to Lando completely. Bronzong looks like Trick Room and like Iron Defense Body Press, which is really strong. Orform does similarly. It's a little bit less bulky than Bronzong, but it has Shed Tail. So you see it, there's like a common Orform team with Ting-Lu. That's kind of like the main way it's used. Orform Ting-Lu Gouger. And you can like hit mons that spam Earthquake next to it, so it like gets HP back whenever it gets like Earthquake. So that's kind of cool. P2 is a little bit outclassed, but it has like Terra Blast stuff. You can use P2 Ursaluna, which isn't that bad, with like Terra Blast Blind, and then you can Earthquake next to your P2. Similar stuff to what it's done in some of the VGC formats, but it's a little bit outclassed because we have other Trick Room setters like Diancie, and then also P2 is like kind of bad into Gold, which is unfortunate. Primarina is like really bulky, like Water Fairy type. Not really bulky. It's kind of like Larp Beanie. It's not that bad. Like fairy types in this tier are valuable. Same thing with Scrimtail, but Primarina is a little bit more offensive, but it will not quite get as much value as you want it to in most games, but it's still okay. Primarina's alright. Scrimtail is like Encore Disable stuff. It's pretty good. It's really annoying. Encore Disable, Protect, Booster Energy, like faster than everything, and then just like Gleam for like attack. It won't do really much of anything, but that Encore Disable pressure can be really nice for like random like Senda Sweepers, which is cool. Smeargle, really fringe mod, but not actually that bad because despite being like really vulnerable to like Overclock redirection and like whatever, and like taunt, like fake out, follow me, like decorate is really good. Spore is really strong. So Smeargle can be like really disruptive. Sneasler, one of the best coaching mobs in the tier. It's really fast. Um, and like fighting type is really nice. It can also be like unburdened with like grassy seed, which is cool. A little bit underexplored Pokemon currently. That's not bad. Um, yeah, fake out coaching CC Dark Claw is just really good compression, to be honest. Dark Claw is just a broken move as well. Alright, Spectre. The thing with Sneasler is like Dogi is usually better these days as like a poison fighting type because it's and you do intimidate. But Sneasler is so fast that it definitely has a niche. Alright, Spectre is usually just like choice specs with like Chi-Yu. That's like I think its strongest niche, but it can also click like really fast CM or nasty plot, which makes it really threatening. Uh, with Grassy Seed. But you need a lot of support for it, but you can definitely get away with it. T-Tar kind of used stuff like that X drill stuff, but it could be worse. Like T-Tar has so much stats in Sand, it's not that bad. Volcarona's kind of like a weird like quiver dance guy, or not weird, but like a little bit rarer like boosting guy. But I think it's really strong next to Moon. You can use it as an alternative next like as opposed to like Gold. You can also use like uh you can also use like Rage Powder stuff with it as well. And then Wimps, lastly, is like just a really like it's like kind of like a fringe tailwind setter. Maybe a bit better now that Moon is more common, but generally it doesn't get as much done accomplished as like Moon or Torn, so that's why we don't see it as much. But Tailwind Encore with Frankster is still like really great compression. So yeah, that's gonna be it. Thanks for watching. Really long video. But yeah, hopefully this was pretty helpful. We'll see you next time.